I feel like she actually beats Harif in lane.
In lane.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't think in the lane though. Like I think early game, Esmeralda is forced to just sit back, but mid to late game is where like,
Esmeralda does a lot of damage level 1, you know.
She does. She does.
Okay.
I can definitely see where you're coming from. I can see the angle for sure. But there is way easier counterplay for the Harith in comparison to the
Ruff is the only player with MPL My S13 with 2 Maniacs. So yes, technically he's the only one with 2, but as of yet, Max is pretty not far behind. He just got one in the previous game, so if he gets another one this game, well, we've got a tie here.
So that means that Ruff will now need to get a Maniac to maintain his lead.
Yeah, they're just trading Maniacs with each other.
This is like, oh, hey guys, Max got a Maniac last game. I need to remain on top. Yeah, we gotta get the Maniac.
Now they mention here, there was only one guy in this season that's gotten Savage so far.
I think so. Somehow I suddenly can't remember actually.
There's one Savage so far. Like the previous season, I think it was Zaps that was the only one that got Savage, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Last season?
Yeah, that was last season.
That's a while ago.
My memory doesn't go that far back.
I just briefly saw it in Liquid Media though. So,
okay.
Anyways, now speaking that Valentina as well as the Selena being banned here, and now seeing that they are still prioritizing that double mage composition, do you think that MV is gonna bring it out though? I don't think they would, right? Like previous game, they didn't really do that. They still prioritize on Arla as roam, so I'm very surprised that Niners still doesn't want to play this mage. Like I'm pretty sure Fakes can play anything at this point. Even if he goes back to Rafarsa, I wouldn't be surprised. Oh well, Vex, yeah.
Okay.
Go back to Ugu Buga.
No, I think this is fine because if you show what your EXP is going to be, it also reveals what your roam is going to be almost straight away, right? And I think MV want to kind of hold that as their trump card against Niners when they kind of complete their composition. We still don't know whether Edith is going to get thrown into the EXP just to kind of smother whoever is there. Okay, Yuzong, so I guess not. It's definitely going into the roaming position, and they're going to pair it up with...
Phobius. Hold on.
Okay.
So this is Roger Jungle still.
So, yes, this is Roger Jungle still, and they're going to make sure that Yuzong is going to try and beat out this Harith in the lane. Let me just think about this for a second.
Is this Zaps playing the Phobius?
I think so, yeah. Phobius gold.
Or is it Yuzong Gold lane? Like,
I think more likely Phobius.
Yeah, more likely the Phobius.
Just because Harith got a lot of dash, this Demonic Force, does it hit against the Harith? Actually, it does.
Yeah, it does.
Like, compared to
and the Arlet, too.
The Nolan. Nolan can actually dodge it, but I don't think Harith can actually dodge just because of the fact that the Chrono Dash is not as far as you think it is. It's right at the edge of the skill.
Oh!
Oh!
So funny. This is going to be so funny.
I think I have a viewer who will be very happy to see this here.
I think I know the exact viewer you're talking about. Carmilla on this... Oh, man. Okay. Okay, let's see how these team fights are going to go. I'm going to hold my opinions for now.
Carmilla roam in the hands of Nova X Kobar. The debut of the hero in MPL MY Season 13. Very strong team fight, especially comboed with that final slash. But will it overcome the demonic force?
This is going to be a tough one here. I like the idea that Monster Vicious is having as well. You've got Niners diving into your face. Why not? If they group up together, one big out is going to completely whammy them. But of course, things may turn to events here. Will Niners come back or will Monster Vicious take the 2-0? Ladies and gentlemen, this is game 2 of Monster Vicious versus the Niners.
All right, jumping into the land of Dawn, I'm thinking of interactions that can be abused in the earlier stages of the game. Carmilla is very unique in this position. We all know what her ult does, and we all know how devastating it can be if she's able to land it on multiple people. But at the same time, we have to remember that from the Niners side, they're definitely not going to give her the most ideal conditions, right? They're going to force... they're going to be forcing smaller fights. They're going to have more skirmishes, and a lot of it is going to be reconfirmed by Munji. Zabs, don't expect him to be doing too much. He's going to be looking to scale it as fast as possible in this game. Ruff, on the other hand, basically the same thing as we saw in game number 1. However, I am a little bit worried for Uni here, because when he walks up towards these turtles, he's got to deal with so much. Yep, first blood, right there.
What is that damage? Okay, Yechi connected a second skill there. So it makes a lot of sense why he's taking a little bit too much here. But Monster Vicious, they seems like they're a little bit crumbling this game. And meanwhile, Nova is going to try and zap away, steal some of the defense coming from Zabs. And he is going to take a little bit too much. Oh, okay, they forced the flicker. He's going to be A-okay. But Niners, again, leading the early game. like game 1 again.
Yeah, very similarly. They're playing to the strong side of the map. They're just letting Zobs kind of like hold off on his own. I think MV, very smart decision of quickly sending Nova X Kobar to gank actually gank on the top side of the map.
You saw, I saw.
We don't need to point it out.
Yeah.
For now, Niners, they definitely gotta play strong early. When you have the double fighter side lane and Edith roam Roger jungle, you really need to snowball because again, Monster Fish is gonna be playing a little bit more for that scaling.
I'm just gonna pretend I didn't see it, but at the same time, now speaking of the drafts here, it feels like based on the composition, Monster Vicious really wants Niners to kind of, you know, allow Niners to just dive into the composition and allow Nova to just get a free Cursed Blood for chain CCs, right? Like Fakes, if he waits for the Cursed Blood, Fakes is gonna get some chain CCs that Niners just cannot avoid at all. And think about this, there's no Purifies on Niners at all.
That's the worst part, right? Because whoever is caught, it's committed. Wait, hold on.
Well, speaking of committed here, Nova is going to flicker away here. Meanwhile, Xenomount is going to try and distract them. Uni gets focused down here. And now Niners, they will secure the turtle. And meanwhile, we've got Yetri trying his best to actually zone them out. But at the same time, Zafs comes in. Moonji with the snipe. Zeno is out. And Niners, again, with this early aggression, and they're dominating once more.
So disrespectful from Monster Vicious' side. So disrespectful. They gotta wait until Nova X Cobra actually hits level 4, and then you finally actually have a roaming support. For the most part of it, I think Niners, they gotta activate Max, right? We've seen this lead being wasted before. They need to start applying it onto the right members, and I think number one, they gotta start hitting rough because I think Ye3 is doing a phenomenal job keeping Arlet in check. That wave is pushed up pretty close towards Arlet's side of the tower, but it doesn't matter, right? Because Ye3 always has priority.
Yeah, Yetri being able to join these fights freely is creating so much space and pressure for the Niners because a lot of the time, Uni is being zoned out and chunked out by this Gizon.
Oh, Petrify combo onto a Zeno. He's just gonna chain CC, but he somehow survives for now with 10% HP. He may be able to turn the fight. Max overcommitting the fight. He is gonna get shredded. He tries his best, but he does buy a lot of time because now top side Monster Vicious is gonna try and commit a fight against Zaf. He is gonna be able to survive this. But this time, Niners, they're getting free value, and they get the full gold plating down bottom as well for both Max and Ye3.
Zeno tried his best to outplay the situation, and arguably, I would say arguably, 1v3 and giving your kill over to Barbosa is a huge win. Because you can see that the Niners really wanted to give that kill over to Max, and every time Max tried to fade away, Zeno just made it even harder for him. Somebody had to take that kill, and Barbosa was like, all right, it's my time, boys.
Zeno definitely did his best there, and we really gotta commend him for surviving that long, but the Niners are understanding that currently momentum very much in their favor with the draft that they've picked up for game number 2 here, and they're not going to let go of this tempo. Unfortunately, compared to the previous game, Monster Vicious doesn't have quite as many tools to actually punish, and they've already been put behind a lot more than before because Uni is staying for these objectives a little bit too long.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be a difficult one here. Black Dragon already popped in. They do find Nova X Kobar, forced to flicker out of that fight. Now, Ye3 also going to be dropping with the Manic Force. Monster Vicious, they're trying to run for their lives, and Ruff, if he tries to dash away, he is going to get pummeled here. So Monster Vicious, they're holding it out of the Chrono Dash here, and Zaps, given the tools he needs to play aggressive this game, and it seems like Monster Vicious, they're just afraid of using mobility because of this Phobius. And Nova, ooh, okay, he survives, but Monster Vicious, they are going to give up a little bit more control. Ruff stealing away the orange buff, but unfortunately for him, it is not going to do him any good here. Pops the Savage Force up top to try and clear off the waves, but Niner says, I don't care. I want to kill Fakes, but it seems like Monster Vicious, they don't know what to do. Barbosa, he overextended. He is going to get punished for this here. He pops the Primal. He's going to be okay. Big Final Snatch catches the back line, stopping the tempo, stopping the back up. But at the same time here, Zaz, he's got 2 demonic punches in, but he needs to get out. He needs to hold on here. He's trying to set up for Max, but Monster Vicious, they're doing a fantastic job kiting them somehow.
Oh man, Nova lands a 3-man ult. Nobody can follow up with it. Everybody already used their big ultimates. All their CC was down, and Uni had no way to kind of close the gap there. A little unlucky there. That could have been a momentum shift for the Niners. And finally, we see Zaz go for the reset and head down to the bottom side of the map, leaving Ye3 on the top side to actually contest for the upcoming turtle.
For now, so the next couple minutes are going to be very sensitive timings for the Niners here because we saw in the previous game, this is roughly the time where once they have the lead, they start overcommitting a little bit. They definitely have a stronger advantage this game compared to the last. So as long as they don't make any big mistakes, they're still on track.
Okay, Ruff pops the Salmon Force here. There's no damage.
What?
Whoa! Misses the stun. What? That was a pixel away. Now he needs to get out. He goes out the way as well. Uni goes for the taunt as well. Black Dragon comes in to try to gobble them up. They do get killed. Uni, big petrify from Tree to shut them down. Nova needs to back out, and here comes the Niners. They are going to try and drag this out of game number 3 for now, but Monster Vicious, they're losing a little bit more, but the Snipes, ooh, Muji, just a pixel up, but at the same time, this is a dominant performance for Niners from game number 2.
Yep, it's looking a little bit better, but the question is whether or not they're able to actually translate it. So far, they translated a little bit. They've now developed the 4.3, a lot bigger, much bigger gold lead in comparison to the previous game, but we all see how it all starts to crumble down at that first Lord, and that's what I'm worried about, right? If Niners can develop this 4K lead to maybe about 8K, I would have a lot more faith, but as it is right now, a single bad interaction could really drop down that gold lead from 5,000 all the way back down to a gold lead for MV.
I would agree, but it would definitely take quite a big mistake from the Niners for that to actually happen here. Because, again, in terms of the draft, the Niners are looking a lot better in this game. They've got more tools, they've got more damage overall. Monster Vicious, unfortunately, going to be relying very heavily on Ruff and Fakers here. So that positioning is important, and at this point, Uni and Xeno have already fallen a bit too far behind, so they're not really able to absorb damage for a long time either.
They need Ruff and as well as Fakes to scale as quickly as possible, but I think Nova X Kobar can really turn the tide of battle, and I think this next upcoming objective is something that Niners really needs to make a consideration, right? You don't necessarily need the Lord, you need map presence.
Oh, Astro Echo comes in, big slap onto his Fakes as well. CC immune up on Year 3 to try and zone them out, but at the same time, despite split on Xeno close the back line, the tier 1 falls, and Monster Vicious, they were able to turn the tide. The turret still stands. Niners, they're just diving blindlessly, and Monster Vicious was able to flip the script and completely destroy Niners. Only Muji is left. What were you thinking?
OB, can we get an instant replay and specifically focus on Nova X Goldbar? What did I say? What did I say? To be fair, Max did dive very deep into the back line. Was he supposed to do that? No. Definitely no. He could have just stayed in human form the entire time. He could have just given away, not taken that kill, and take the mid-tier 1, which is superiorly more valuable.
Sometimes in life, you know, we get a little bit thirsty. In this case, too much thirst is not good. It was just a bait coming in from Monster Vicious. But at the same time, you know, they were able to capitalize on his greed.
I don't know. I don't even think it was a bait all that much. If anything, it felt like it was garbage day because Max was just throwing. And, like, no reason. Yeah, why would you dive that deep? Get taunted under tower. You're separated from your entire team by the tier 1, which is still standing. And you've thrown away half your lead just like that.
I think that Max was very confident that he can go in, Lycan Pounce, and then after that go into human form and make his way out with the help of Ye 3. I don't think he was expecting the raw amount of CC coming out from MV's side because he has been having a very dominant game. So from 5K, they're back down to 2.8, the exact same position we've seen before. Let's see whether or not Monster Vicious is able to take out 4 of them before that Lord expires.
Well, I guess they have to secure this. This Lord, no contest coming from Monster Vicious. Uni getting kited around, so that's going to be a free Lord coming in. Zeno Mao going to be pulling in the fight against Barbosa. He's going to be chain stunned here. He needs to get out. Zaus gets a 3-man Demonic Force. Force. Raph needs to get out. Here comes Year 3 as well. They're going to be diving into tier 1. Once again, they don't care. Double petrified from Year 3. He gets Nova and Monster Vicious. 2-man left, and that's going to be Niners coming up on top. They trade 2 for 3, and despite the troll by Max, Niners still in the driver's seat.
Hey man, Munji, he's warmed up. He's a lot more warmed up now. 3rd highest in damage dealt. That Star Shatter really putting Ruff 1 leg in the grave before the fight even concluded.
Fakers and Ruff getting sniped consistently. Ruff not being able to dish out damage because of that Demonic Force. Again, this draft gives Niners a lot of space. Even though that previous loss did not need to happen, they're still very much in the driver's seat here, though it looks like AI Winning Prediction has a different thing to say about that. Monster Vicious really didn't need to contest. They were already giving up the Lord. Yes, it seemed like they might be able to pick off Barbosa, but you gotta remember how much dive potential Niners have with this Yuzong Phobius.
I think they want to bait out an engagement coming in from Niners, to be perfectly honest. I think they want them to actually give Niners a reason to actually engage, because I think Niners won't do it regardless. I think that Niners are at a position where they recognize, okay, it's really difficult to team fight against MB, right? We've got great push and pull. We have great ways that kind of avoid damage and buy that extra bit of time until the cooldowns have been used. And once they have been used, that's when Max needs to come in. In the meantime, Moonji is relevant throughout this entire period, whether they have abilities or they don't, consistently sniping the major targets. I mean, let's look at the items, right? Where's the MR? Where is the MR? I see an Oracle, I see a Radiant Armor, I also see an Athena Shield being built on Carmilla as well. So now you have 3 dedicated people to take the shots coming in from Moonji, who basically is on his way to a Genius Wand.
Well, speaking of which here, what's another item that can utilize, what's another hero that can utilize the Blood Wings? Guess what? Zafs, you know, on this Phobius. And guess what? Every single time it comes in, none of Monster Vicious can actually shut him down. And I feel like the big win condition for Monster Vicious is to try and isolate Zafs, take him out, and then continue with the fight. But so far, he's not been able to find those opportunities here for Monster Vicious.
I'm wondering whether Faker's going for Glowing Wand Necklace may not be the right build here. I feel like it's not enough damage.
I think they have more. I think they have enough. Necklace of Durance makes sense, right? Very atypical first item. He's going for the Winter Truncheon as his third. All right. What is he afraid of here? I think he, again, same problem as before. If he gives Max a reset, his team is basically gone for, right? Like Ruff probably can't take 2 Lycan pounces. One from when Max jumps on tops of fakes, and then it bounces towards Ruff, and then the second once the reset actually occurs. I think overall, I wouldn't disagree with it. I think it's okay. It's not the best, definitely not the worst.
Oh, Zeno Maon is going to get chain stun here. They're already starting things off, but at the same time, Niners is just waiting for the right moment here. Zaf's getting completely kited here, down to his half HP. He drops into Melodic Force. No one seems to be able to finish Bob. The amount of chains he sees from Niners just gobbles them up. Monster Vicious, they're losing members, and they have to get out. Uni barely survives at the edge. They were able to trade off Ruff for Zaf's, gold lane for gold lane. But aside from that, Niners still having a very big lead here. Max going to be starting things with the Lord map control in their favor, but Monster Vicious, they have to call it quits.
Yeah, this is a very rough game for Ruff. Again, have to make that. But, like, basically,
Moonji, he needs to get out. Good save from Barbosa. He's going to be okay. Lord secured. Monster Vicious a little bit late. And it seems like we might see a potential game 3 here, as Niners still struggling to hold on for their MPL lives. In this case, it's one step closer, hopefully.
Ruff can't position in these fights, basically. If you drop the Zaman Force, Yetri jumps on top of you. If you try to dash away, Zavs jumps on top of you. The heart is being targeted every single fight, and because of that, Monster Vicious don't have enough consistent DPS overall, because the rest of the team is acting a little bit more as utility, which allows the Niners to just basically run them over. At first in that fight, it looked like they might be able to pick up Zavs quickly, but all the iframes meant that the Niners could just catch up instantly and force the funnel. So we could very well be looking at a game 3 right now, as the goal lead is already 7k for the Niners.
A winning position for MV would be Ruff not popping the Zaman Force, somehow baits Zavs into using the Demonic Force onto the backline, and then Yetri whiffs the Petrify, right? Ruff needs to have his Purify up, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Because the counter engage is strong from MV's side. Now they're losing 2 inhibitors. They should be able to defend this no problem, because Niners, the closer they are to that crystal, the more dangerous it gets for them.
Yeah, it is all about, you know, just playing safe right now. Niners, they have no reason to rush this year. They know even if they go into the ultra late game, there's nothing much Monster Vicious can do to the do to them. Because if you think about this here, Fakes needs all Niners to clump up. But you've got Zafs, Max, and Ye3, where even if they clump up, I don't care. I'm going to be CC immune anyway. In this case, Ye3 making sure that Fakes cannot set up those combos is pretty much a win for Niners. Unless, and I mean unless, Zeno Maon gets the perfect final stage 3-man stun to start things up for a triple Terrify, which I think it's very difficult to pull off for Monster Vicious.
Yeah, it's too conditional overall. I think what needs to happen is that Monster Vicious cannot be the ones to engage. They're the ones that have less tools overall. Yep. So far, I think they themselves know that as well. They've been trying to bait out Niners into diving them, but because of the way the compositions work, it's very difficult for Monster Vicious to actually peel away from them, even when that happens.
I think the peeling part is the important thing, because they're very cooldown dependent. It's not like they naturally can peel people away. I think the only person who can realistically do that is Uni, and even then it's on condition that he is going even or ahead of his opponents. Right now, they're not. They're not in that type of position. We're getting to a point where MB, finally, the 42k mark, I would say that the carries probably have their third, fourth item at this point of time. Uni catching up very quickly, but still not in position to be able to say, I can 1v5 this and hold that front line for a long period of time.
It seems very difficult for him to actually hold his line against Niners, right? Like, everyone from Niners can just completely ignore him compared to the previous game. Like, yes, quote-unquote, Max was the biggest target, and he struggled the most game 1. But right now, Niners has the tools to actually deal with it. Think about this. Zaz was completely useless game 1, but game 2, he's the biggest problem for Monster Vicious because of the fact that every single dashes gives him a tool to just turn the tides in Niners' favor. And I think this is genius with this Phobius pickup, and Monster Vicious just in a spot where they need to just find a way to not give it to them. But for now, Lord down towards half HP. Barbosa gonna try and beat some reactions coming in. Monster Vicious, they just want to steal the Lord away. Meanwhile, Fake's already on the top side. If he shows himself up top, Niners is gonna completely collapse on Monster Vicious.
The ability to split up the fight is becoming a really big, like, key factor within this match as a whole, because in game 1, Xeno splitting up the fight with Masha made it so that they could run down every fight. This game, Phobius and Yuzong splitting up the fight is allowing Niners to run over Monster Vicious. So again, watch those timings.
Oh, Astro Echo comes in. Uni managed to sidestep with the Cyclone here, but at the same time, they are split up. They are going to try to contest the Lord for now. They need to get the steal, but no! Max wins the retry battle, and the rest of Monster Vicious, they are going to try and die for the Max. They need to get this kill onto him. Can he finish bomb? Appraisal Drive comes in, but no! Max, he sidesteps with the Lycan bounce. He turns the kill. He gets the HP. He gets the double kill. And Niners, they come up on top. We are going to see game 3. They want to go in for the GG push, and Monster Vicious, can they defend against this? Fakes, Nova, they're the only ones left standing. They can't do much. They're focusing on the Crystal. Fakes, healing himself up. The Crystal is going to be mowed down, and we're going to see a game 3. Niners still survive. They still hold on with their dear lives. The Cats got 9 lives, and they're not done yet.
Big plays coming out from Max. Bigger plays being made by both Zaz and as well as Ye3, making that backline really struggle overall. Finally, a better performance coming in from the Niners and adjustments being made by MV's side. It's time not to experiment this time around with the team fight composition, but man, well done to the Niners.
We can even see thumbs up from Swapat in the crowd right there, watching, waiting for his second match of the day. But very well done there. Niners getting that even game that they were looking for, making it so that Monster Vicious can't get that clean sweep. And it is going to be back to the drawing board here. I feel like the draft may have been slightly disrespected.
I think the Carmilla pick for sure was a little disrespectful. I think that for sure. I think it could have been played a lot better from MV's side, and they're probably going to need a little bit more practice on this, because as a team, it's not like they didn't have high ground defense. I think they could have sacrificed that Lord and taken out 2 members from the side of the Niners, specifically Ye3 as well as Zavs, and gotten away with it to drag this game out even longer. I think they got pretty sick and tired of it, and I also think, unfortunately, a forced error had occurred, especially with the top side building up so much.
You know, I think when it comes to this particular 2 match here, because we have a little bit more data and comparison to work with here, I'm more curious to see how the MVP is first. Before we talk about it more here, let's talk about the MVP for that particular match here. And I feel that the MVP for that match is going to be none other than Max on his Roger. And with that sick solo outplay before closing it out, it's no surprise he's the MVP for that match.
Max likes to be the playmaker, he likes to be given the opportunity to snowball, and while in the previous game the hyper carry sort of strat did not work out in their favor, this time the draft was a lot more suited for wreaking havoc on the backlines and allowing the Lycan himself to pounce on in and pick up multiple kills. He did have one death from an unnecessary dive in the mid lane, but there was already so much advantage and momentum on the Niners side that it didn't really affect them.
This is what I was talking about in the previous game, right? We needed ways to actually activate somebody who has a lead, and finally Max was able to kind of achieve that, not only by himself, but actually transition his lead and convert it to somebody else, and in this case, he helped both the EXP and as well as the gold to get ahead in the game.
You know, to be honest, I like this Niners now from this patch. Like, they look a little bit more reformed, and quote-unquote, because we have more data from Game 1 and Game 2, it feels like Game 1, it was just an outdraft. Like, they fixed their internal communications, and in Game 2, it seems like it's so much better now compared to the previous week.
I think personally, I still think a lot of this victory did come down to just straight up having a much better draft here.
Yeah.
Being able to save that Phobius Yuzong combo for the last phase meant that basically no matter what row Monster Vicious picked up, they would have to deal with something or another. Ruff already was destined for not a good time.
Yeah, yeah, he was destined for not a good time, but I think also Niners understood the logic of priority, right? Like, Year 3 was doing a very good job at keeping Xeno in place for a majority of that game until the final linchpin came in Max actually ganking, 3-man ganking Xeno Mao's lane and making sure that he never recovered from that. Moonjin as well as Barbosa has done a phenomenal job at actually controlling that mid lane and making sure that Nova X Kobar doesn't have relevance until he hits 4. And as soon as Nova X Kobar drops his ult, well, if only 2 members of the Niners get hit by it, that's not the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah, and it seems like based on them fighting against that, it feels like the setup coming from Monster Vicious did not contribute at all, because every single time, like you said as well, Nova was trying to set up this place. It's up to Fakes or even Uni to actually set this up, because Xeno Mao's job is pretty much making sure they are set in place. But every single time that happens, you know that everyone from Niners is like, I'm just gonna make sure that Fakes isn't able to follow up through, and in this case, Gaetri is that guy to make sure that Fakes cannot follow up with Nova.
I mean, it's not just Fakes, right? It's even Barbosa as well. That's why he's playing like super disrespectfully in front of the faces, proceeding to give off the aura of, at any point of time, I'm going to flicker onward on you, and there's not a lot that you can do about that, right? So you have to respect the space that I am obtaining, and he continues to slowly chip away at taking the ground from MV.
One thing about this draft as well is that a big problem we pointed out in Game 1 was that Max and Barbosa oftentimes went a little bit too far in front and operated at too high a tempo for their side laners to catch up. But when you have Black Dragon Form and Demonic Force, it's okay. It's kind of impossible for you to not catch up. So it's very easy for Niners to actually connect their team fight together, even if there still may be some underlying communication issues. And I think that the final Carmilla pick here was because Monster Vicious did kind of get threatened in the end. Like, they weren't expecting the Phobia, so they, okay, our last hero needs to be someone without dashes so that we don't give more procs to Demonic Force. But I actually feel like if you already have Harif and Arlet, you should pick a roamer that has dashes so that you can at least maybe bait the Demonic Force away from them.
Yeah, just pick a Cho. Like that. Yeah. They could have just gone for the Cho. At that point, since you already have so many dashes, it really doesn't matter, because Zabs can only buy so much time, and if he decides to take Purify, all right, I just have to break it. Go for the Guinevere one more time. There are many different ways of actually handling it, and I think unfortunately for this Carmilla pick, it kind of forces you in a cookie cutter situation where it's like we have to team fight in a very specific way with very specific conditions, and that's already hard enough to achieve.
I think it comes down to their initial draft from Monster Vicious, right? Like, their opening drafts are pretty much the Harif as well as the Frederick, right? They pretty much shown their hands a little bit early. Sorry, I mean the Vexana as well. They pretty much showed their hands that, hey, this is what we're going to be doing here. Near identical drafts coming from the previous game. It was just up to Niners to just say, like, you know what? We are going to pick heroes where even if you've got Nova with a very, very diverse pool of tanks, cannot do anything about it. Like, you think about this. What else can Nova pick in that situation in the final draft to deal with this annoying composition that Niners is? Like, yes, you've got a Cho, but again, even if you got a Cho, who's going to be able to burst Zaps down?
Could even go for a Ruby for Peel. Could have gone for Valir as well if they wanted something a little bit more range. But then that would...
Valir?
If they really wanted to, right? There's still some counterplay against Max. I mean, he probably would have gotten one shot at some point of time.
Okay.
There are a number of things that could have been done potentially. The only problem is that some supports kind of force you into a position where you kind of don't have a choice, but you have to play around it, right? Things like Kaja and as well as Cho, you definitely understand, all right, their main objective is to look for these pickoffs, right? Nova X Kovar, now playing that Carmilla, falls into the category of, oh, I'm playing similarly to like an Estes where the whole team has to play together to take advantage of that all. If not, it is basically wasted.
Now that you mention it here, Kaja it's kind of fallen off for the radar for quite some time now.
I mean, Kaja would have been perfectly fine here.
I think the Divine Judgment would be a great counterplay for the Phobias. Like, if he comes in, pulls in the side, just kill him.
It doesn't even necessarily have to be the Kaja, right? If they picked up something like, say, the Mincetar, I think it would have been pretty good as well. Like, they dive you drop the King Calling, Yetri and Zavs can't move, Max can't move. So I think they definitely had a lot more options. The Carmilla didn't necessarily have to be the way to go.
Yeah, I don't think the King's Calling would have been an easy answer because, again, I think Niners have a much better push and pull. And I think that was the biggest issue, right? That MV couldn't make Niners commit to a fight because they had so much ways to kind of like go into a fight, pull out of the fight, or buy enough time so that somebody else can actually get them that time, and then it's just rinse and repeat. So I don't know, unless MV had a better solution or at least a change in support pick to make sure that Uni is actually able to play Fredrin comfortably and not die on the very first Litho Wanderer, probably would have been a much smoother time.
Well, seeing the stats here, Rich Guy carry is going to be Zavs as well as Max, and of course the sandbag is going to be Uni here, and the best wingman is going to be Barbosa. Everyone from Niners is doing really well in both games in the early progression here, but again, now, so far, 2 games in a row, Niners has played around having Roger up on Max. Do you think it's time to mix things up for Game 3 for Monster Vicious? Maybe?
I think it might be a good idea.
Roger?
If you don't ban him, then at least contest. I think if Monster Vicious are able to get blue side in the next draft, it would give them some advantage in this case. But looking at the highlights here, there were definitely times where Monster Vicious were trying to be the aggressors. They actually made some pretty good decisions to go for ganks. But Niners just has way too many solutions for their comp.
Yeah, I feel bad. Like, look at Nova. Like, this was the one mistake that Niners made and just completely shut down on Niners, right? Like, even the Cursed Blood, Nova was able to link up both Barbosa as well as Max there, and that was pretty much a shutdown coming from Monster Vicious. And despite all that, that was just the only play that Monster Vicious pretty much won, and everything else from Niners was like, you know what, let's not overextend. But despite not overextending, they did the exact same play and still got away with it. It's crazy. Like, technically, it shouldn't be possible, right?
No, it's definitely possible. I think that you know, Niners kind of had a reality check there for a moment where it's like, okay. Now we understand what the conditions are supposed to be. It's not like everybody has a lot of practice against Carmilla of all things, right? I don't think scrims are like, Carmilla, number one thing that we need to learn how to play and learn how to play against. I think there are better priorities out there, so it takes a bit of an adjustment. I think at least for the side of the side for the Niners, at least they're looking more together. At the very least, communication seemed to be a little bit cleaner, and more importantly so, at least they're transitioning their leads over to other people to actually expand the pool of who is able to actually, you know, go for these bigger dives. Coming to game number 3, however, I think this is when Haru is going to take advantage of blue side. I think this is a pretty good option to actually go for blue side, as a matter of fact.
I agree. Being able to contest for those power picks, being able to deny them from your opponent, because we've already seen that if Niners don't have the right team composition, they can appear a little bit scattered at times. So take advantage of that gap in team communication. Either way, before we go on into our last game, we got a little bit of an interview for all of you guys watching at home. So without further ado, let's throw it to Rose.
Yalah Fel, Rose kerja hari ni walaupun I tak open, you guys bawa opening, I ada. Alright guys, hello semua. Sekarang saya dengan wakil daripada Moonton Student Leader. Hello, please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hello, hi, nama saya Amtua, so aku project manager untuk program Moonton Student Leader.
Okay, Amtua. So, since you're the project manager of the Munton student leader kan, apa inisiatif actually that Munton is taking untuk sekolah dengan universiti sekarang? Boleh tak share dengan kita orang?
Okey, inisiatif utama Munton Student Leader untuk pelajar-pelajar universiti dan pelajar sekolah adalah ingin kata memberikan exposure tentang Mobile Legends Bang Bang kepada pelajar-pelajar sekolah dan juga pelajar universiti. Selain kita memberikan pendedahan tentang career growth dan juga healthy gaming untuk student.
I see. So, career growth and healthy gaming, macam dorang boleh nampak career opportunities in the future selepas sekolah lah kan?
Betul.
Okay, so nak tanya, hari ni universiti mana yang datang?
Okey, hari ni agak special sebab kita ada dua universiti daripada MSU Shah Alam dan juga Uni KL MIIT.
Ada tak korang? Mana
Itu
students?
di belakang.
Hai. Alright, so nampaknya meriah lah sikit. Lagi-lagi seru Saturday kan? Okay, so actually boleh tak share objective student leader program ni dengan orang yang tak tahu lagi pasal student leader program?
Okey, Munton Student Leader objektif dia adalah sebenarnya untuk memberikan pengalaman kepada wakil-wakil pelajar ataupun dipanggil sebagai Munton Student Leader di universiti masing-masing untuk belajar mengenai Mobile Legends Bang Bang dan mereka juga diajar untuk menjadi seorang manager. Maksudnya mereka diberikan pendedahan untuk handle event sendiri, organize dia punya on Mobile Legends e-sport Bang Bang punya tournament, and of course kita juga akan support daripada segi penubuhan e-sport club untuk universiti yang take part dalam Munton Student Leader.
I see. So actually students dorang pun macam buat tournament internal sendiri dengan permission Munton. So dia macam third party. Oh, I see. Okay, menarik. I rasa sebab sekarang kan ramai orang dengan ramai younger generations yang start taking interest dalam bidang e-sports ni. So dengan initiative ni is like giving them more opportunity and seeing more light in the scene. Okay, so I nak tanya in the upcoming week sebab playoffs dah nak dekat actually.
What?
Playoffs dah nak dekat kan?
Betul.
So, adakah universiti lain akan datang dengan visit MPL Arena?
Okay, just for information semua, until final day of week 6 memang dah penuh.
Oh.
Every day akan ada universiti yang datang around the Malaysia, and daripada Sarawak juga pun akan ada.
Oh, patutlah setiap hari I datang MPL Arena kan banyak bus universiti dekat luar.
Yes, betul.
I see. Okay, so final words. Apa yang Tuan nak cakap dekat younger generations yang nak take part dengan student leader program ni?
Okay, kepada younger generation yang bermain Mobile Legends, apa yang saya nak pesan lebih kepada untuk menjadi pemain yang berdisiplin, kurangkan toxic and be a supportive community since kita nak mengubah perception about older generation berkaitan e-sport, especially dalam Mobile Legends Bang Bang.
Alright, caster, dengar tak tu? Kurangkan toxic. So, mari kita start game ketiga kita. Let's show it back to the casters for our third game of this match.
We can reduce toxicity, right, guys?
I feel like
We can do
shots
that, right?
were fired, but not on this desk.
Probably not on
Specifically
this
the other side.
Look, not everybody can be a winner, all right? Some are gonna have to win, some are get to enjoy the glory, others just have to suffer defeats. Now, let's have a look at the player swap here because Subway is coming in for Uni. I mean, the fact that Uni had to play Frederick 2 times, you might as well have Subway in the first place.
Like, when they brought in Uni for this game, I thought for sure they were gonna try playing something different. But then it was just Fredrin twice in a row. So I was just like thinking, yeah, why not bring the Fredrin player instead?
I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting assassins coming from them here. I was hyping them up. Hey, it's Uni. It's assassin. He's a great assassin player. Never played a single assassin, and I was extremely disappointed. Like game 1, they won great. Game 2, completely dropped the ball, and I feel like Monster Vicious in a situation where why the heck did you put Uni in the draft in the first
Now
place?
watch Subway play Fanny.
That'd be pretty funny. Now, admittedly funny, and admittedly he is capable of doing so.
Really?
Yeah, he's capable of playing Fanny.
Capable is a very wide range.
Exactly. I'm gonna leave my choice of words as is. I think that maybe there was possibly possibly a chance that Uni was looking to play Roger. I'm not going to lie. I felt like that's probably where he was leaning more towards to. And the Niners were like, no, nah.
First big Roger all the way, don't care.
Exactly.
It's quite sad that Uni didn't get to play like the signature heroes, right? Considering all the students from university are all here today, right?
Oh, man.
And
Oh, yeah, I get it. Uni,
Uni,
yeah.
Uni.
The king of punts.
Suicide pack, suicide pack. I'm looking at anybody who's trying to make eye
Hey,
contact with
reduce
anybody.
toxicity.
No, this is for self-care.
Whoa. Mental care awareness, huh? Mental health awareness, yeah.
Shout out to mental health. Now, coming back into this game, now that we do have their dedicated Frederick player going on, at least Uni is able to kind of relay the information back to his counterpart, just to kind of give him a rough idea of what to expect coming in from Max, right? Because again, it's these small early interactions that make all the difference here. And Max is a great mechanical player, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
And now that he has a team that's able to kind of support that early play style, or at the very least, somewhat figured it out in the draft, I think that they can start taking advantage of the situation. I think that maybe they might not want to consider Fredrin going up into this game. Barats was still on the table the entirety of the time. Maybe that's something they could lean in towards.
Now, let's talk a little bit more on a different angle here, because this is going to be the crunch time for both of these teams. In particular, it's going to be Niners, right? They need to win this series in order to actually have a shot of staying alive for the playoffs, or in this case, maybe even keeping their MPL slot. And I feel like right now, Niners is in a situation where Haru has figured out the right game plan for the team.
Well, we'll see about that. We'll see about that, because MV made the active choice to stay on the red side. With a couple of changes to the draft, maybe it could have been smoother sailing. I still think it's kind of on the players for game number 2, rather than it's solely blamed on the draft. Yes, the draft can be better, but the players could have played that slightly better themselves. Let's see how the Niners actually respond to it. Do they want to still shake things up and keep NV on their toes to make sure that Haru has to take every single possibility? Or, yeah, they're sticking with the traditional?
Banning Masha on the blue side. You would think that Niners would be able to prioritize it for themselves, but this does mean that they put a lot of weight onto securing that Roger.
I think that's a pretty safe one as well. But I feel like Antagonist, as a drafter right now, he's pretty smart in the sense that how did they fix the problem where Max is always tempo 0, right? Give them heroes where if you want to click a button, I'm there with you, Max. Don't worry, I got you. So I feel like if they stick to that route for now, eventually people are going to figure out this is how Niners play. This is the counter to it. And once that's done, what else can they do? I feel like that is a very, very big gamble considering the spot they're in, but they really need this win. So I feel like if they pull out a Spark strategy like this again, and if they win the series, they're okay for now, but again, still very difficult to get out of 10th place.
Well, let's find out here, because MV, for all we know, they could just leave Matilda wide open just to get Roger for themselves. Or they can go even crazier. I mean, I'm guessing the most obvious way of going about it, they're going to maximize their time. It feels like it's a guaranteed ban on Matilda this time round, and then they have to start considering, all right, this Roger is getting a little bit annoying, right? So we need strong side laners with not a lot of kind of player along the lines of that, right? And locking in the Arlet is a little bit of a bait at this point, because we do know that Barbosa does play in Edith.
Well, good call on the Matilda. I feel like, in my mind, if I were to just force Niners to say like, hey, let them take the Matilda, let them click the Barats, right? Like Matilda, Barats, great. Max is going to be in a situation where he's not going to be going for his usual assassin playstyle jungler. Force him to play a tank. And Subway is great against those kind of matchups.
I don't think it's worth it. Matilda is just way too strong. And it's not as if Barbosa is bad at it. I'm pretty sure.
Despite the nerves?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, despite the nerves, because the utility is just too much. The shield is just too much. It's not as if they even reduced the shield all that much too. So it's still going to be very strong.
You know what? You know what? They could have changed Matilda, keep making sure that her ult is a minute long, and she would still be relevant in the game. That's how good she is.
Yep.
Her guiding winds alone is a ridiculous ability.
Guiding winds alone is enough to be her entire kit.
Yeah.
You don't need anything else.
Everything else is just for stats. Oh, the traditional. Okay, traditional opener coming in from the side of MV. I do still feel like Arla is a little bit of a risk here. I think Barbosa can still absolutely go for the Edith.
Yeah, I really don't like when teams go for such safe openings. I don't really like. I agree that Fredrin early pickup is still fine, especially nowadays. He's gonna be stronger in the early game, but I'm still not a big fan of picking Arlet very early. I feel like he locks you into a certain style of approach.
You know, I like how Niners' vibes is feeling a little bit good here. They're all smiling compared to before, right? Like, if they lose a game, boom, everybody's morale seems to go down. And now, this is their third game, and I like this adjustment that Niners have, but again, very, very risky gamble. They're sticking with their usual drafts again. You know, what worked for them in game 2, they're going to replicate it this time, and it's going to be up to Monster Vicious to adapt here. What kind of adaptations is going to be made right now?
Benedetta.
I agree.
I like the Benedetto.
I think that Benedetta overall is just the Swiss Army knife of the EXP lane. She doesn't have too many bad matchups. She doesn't have too many good matchups. Generally still very relevant in these fights. It does kind of reveal the entirety. It makes sure that the draft is very open-palmed, right? There's not a lot of hiding to do from the side of MV's side. I think if they want to, they can lock in a mage to kind of shift the paradigm. And Valentina!
Not too bad. I think that's an okay pickup here. You can steal Black Dragon Form, you can steal Astral Echo. Pretty solid option overall. I do still agree with the Benedetta. I think a problem both these teams have had is that in both games previously, they've just both locked into teamfight compositions. And so we saw basically no map play. There was no EXP lane splitting the map. There was no macro happening. It was just butting heads the entire time, and whoever had the better draft won. So open it up a little bit.
I was about to say that if they decide to want to pick the Harif again, they've got to actually at least ban the Phobias. But considering now the Harif has been banned, now Ralph has got to play something else. So I guess the Benedetta isn't too bad if they want to go for it. But again, I was like, if they paired up the Harif and Benedetta for this game, maybe the Phobias just completely deny both of this hero. So I guess with Harif out of the equation, well, that's not going to happen.
Well, I think that MV is still all right. They're still okay with this overall, right? Even if they get rid of the Phobias, okay, sure. At least you can use your dashes freely without having too much of a concern. But I don't think that's the biggest deal in the world. Yeah, get rid of the Florin. Make sure that the Niners aren't able to kind of like resustain, top up their health, and more importantly, just start taking away your resources even after having a very close fight.
Florin is a very good combination with the Roger as well, because you're able to give the Dew, give him more stats straight away when he's already strong early, and the get out of jail free card is something that has to be respected. Niners can proceed.
Not only was Max kind of like 1v3, hey, you better win this Retribution battle, you're 2 levels ahead, but there's still a good amount of CC from MV's side. That could have gone drastically wrong for Niners, and a single swing would have put MV in the driver position. But with a 7k lead so far, these inhibitors under threat, MV, they've got their work cut out for them, but they're definitely going to lose an inhibitor.
This looking very good from the Niners right now. I feel like we are watching a character development arc here, because the way they've been approaching this game has been a lot more disciplined compared to what we've seen from the match thus far. And it is really demonstrating in terms of results. 9k lead, 1 inhibitor down, and Monster Vicious doesn't seem like they know what to do.
Yeah, in this case, now Black Dragon is going to try and zone them out. Monster Vicious, they've got to pull their head, but the hook! The hook catches Nova. It's going to get dragged down. Zeno needs to flicker out, but it doesn't matter. Max gets him with the crit. Double kill for him. Ruff pops the Winds of Nature, but it doesn't matter. Already a triple for Max, looking for the Maniac. Can he get his 4th one? Gift it to the man, Monster Vicious. They're going to throw more Ruff here. He's going to try and bait him out, but inhibitor will fall. 2v5 now. Crystal's exposed. Ruff falls to Blazing Duet. Godlike for Max. No Maniac for him, but it's over. Niners keeps on holding on. They take the series 2-1. Their journey in MPL is not ended yet. They will survive.
After many grueling weeks of trying everything and hitting their heads against the wall, the Niners have officially secured their first victory of the season. And will this be a trend that shows what you're truly capable of?
You got to give it to the team. They had a lot of heart in that game. A lot of moments could have gone wrong, but they managed to stick together enough, and this win is going to alleviate a lot of pressure and encourage them to keep on pushing forward. GG, well played to the Niners this time round.
You can see from the faces of both Max and Ye3, they literally gave their all to win this series. They hold on, but is it going to be enough? Because as of yet, there's just so much to talk about. You can even see Chibi was in the crowd enjoying the show, 2-1.
It was quite the show indeed. It continues as we throw into the interview with Rose on stage.
Selepas 4 minggu, akhirnya pasukan Niners dapat kemenangan pertama mereka. Guys, please give them a round of applause. Wow. Very good series actually. So first of all, hi Max, welcome back to Malaysia.
Ya, thank
Sehat?
you. Sehat.
Okay Max, so kita tahu tadi first game Max Maniac,
Ya.
second game Max MVP.
Ya.
Okay, so dan hari ni you guys menang, you jadi in-game leader kan?
Kayaknya ya.
Kayaknya ya kan? Okay, so apa perasaan Max lepas berapa bulan tak main, datang balik ke MPL Malaysia, tengah cuba dengan Niners start menang balik?
Yang terutama pasti excited lah, pengen menang. Terus lihat kondisi kami kan sekarang peringkat 10 ya, pas 9 ya. Kami bakal berusaha sebisa mungkin lah buat lolos ke playoff dulu. Pasti berusaha sebisa mungkin.
Wow, masih lagi semangat?
Banget.
Alright, very good. Okay, can we please pass the mic to Moon? Moon? Hi Moon.
Hello,
How are you?
good.
Lama tak dapat interview Moon.
Itulah.
Itulah. Okay, so playstyle dan meta Niners hari ni actually it's quite different daripada minggu lepas. Okay, berapa minggu lepas agak lain. So apa perbincangan yang jadi dan you know after a few lose streak, apa yang you guys buat dan apa yang problem you guys rasa ada dan macam mana you guys work with that problems dan dapat menang ni?
First kali nak cakap Alhamdulillah lah sebab kita orang dapat kemenangan yang pertama kan untuk season ni. So, menjawab kepada soalan Rose tadi, kalau ikutkan selepas kita kalah untuk minggu lepas, kita buat perbincangan yang intens lah. Kita cakap intens.
Intense macam mana?
Intens yang heart to heart, macam tu lah. But no physical contact ataupun apa pun. Like tak ada bertumbuk ke apa. So kita just intense lah. So bila kita borak-borak balik, so kalau ikutkan itulah wake up call kita orang untuk kita orang cuba yang terbaik dan lebih disiplin dan lebih commit lah.
Alright, nice. Itu yang kita nak. Nampaknya dah berhasil, dah heart to heart talk dorang. Tapi I nak tahu from this side, you guys rasa siapa sepatutnya jadi MVP perlawanan ini? Alright, how about kita tengok MVP kita dekat screen? In 3, 2, 1. MVP kita ialah jeng 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 jeng. Itu dia Max. Okay, Max. Hari ni Max main banyak Roger. Nampak hasil Roger jungler. Tapi ramai juga cakap ini adalah meta assassin ataupun sudah kembali. Kita tahu Max ni pandai main assassin jungler juga. Kita akan nampak tak next match?
Ditunggu aja.
Ditunggu aja. Tak ada clue.
Nggak ada.
Nggak ada. Okay, can we please have Zabs?
Apa?
Okay, Zabs. Selepas lose streak yang agak lama, macam mana you guys actually maintain mental korang tak koyak, macam tak rasa down?
So, macam mana kita orang masa last kalah dengan Barakuda start situ kita orang masih berfikir yang kita orang ni macam terlalu selesa sangat kan. Biarpun dah kalah berapa, tapi kita orang dah start minggu-minggu lalu. Kita orang intense training, kurang tidur, kurang apa. So, hasil dia dekat sini lah guys. Ni lah hasil dia.
Alright. Okay, Barbosa? Alright, hi Barbosa, sehat?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, Barbosa. So before I let you guys go for your media interview, apa yang Barbosa nak cakap dekat fans Niners yang setiap minggu datang sokong you guys?
Kalau untuk kepada fans, maaf dan terima kasih terus support kita, nggak pernah
Jangan nangis.
Mantap. I'm strong. Terima kasih masih percaya sama kita, Bang Ivan, Bang bos-bos kita di semua di belakang, Bang Faris, Bang Joker, Bang Arif. Kita ngelewatin minggu-minggu yang berat, tapi terima kasih udah masih percaya sama kita. Terima kasih juga buat Tias yang udah selalu support datang ke sini.
Alright, thank you so much and congratulations to Niners. You guys may now go celebrate your win.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow, finally selepas 4 minggu, Niners dapat kemenangan pertama mereka dan actually pagi tadi masa I tengah buat mic check, nampak sangat that Niners were on full energy today. Dorang tadi tengah gelak, dorang tadi tengah gurau with each other. So I think that heart-to-heart talk really played a big role. Tapi sebelum match kedua kita untuk seru Saturday Minggu Diraja, mari let's show it back to the casters untuk dapat tahu macam mana Niners secured their first ever win. Casters, silakan.
A truly heartwarming moment as we're able to see the Niners finally secure the victory they've been looking for so long, and that their efforts, the talk, the heart-to-heart, the practice, the time that they have put in has borne fruit. And honestly, it was a great performance from them.
You know, I'm not gonna lie, like Max and Barbosa are by far the two players that had very, very similar scenarios, right? They had to play from a very, very awkward position because if you talk about lose percentage on track record from previous season in their respective teams previously, they don't exactly have the greatest win rate at all, percentage at all. And for them to pour their hearts out as if this was like their last life, it pretty much means a lot. Like, even for Barbosa, he was a little bit sad, but when we could see moments where Max was just, you know, exhausted, like, hey, we really need to win this, and I really hope for the best for Niners, man.
I hope for the best for the Niners as well, but I still think they're a little rough around the edges. I don't think as many teams are going to give them that same grace as MV was able to do. And I think, you know, the patch definitely helped them out. They adapted a little bit faster, and I think in terms of drafting, Antagonist has done a good job with the help of Alshki to make sure that they have a winning lineup at the very least to play towards the strategies that they've been working very hard to perfect. As we look at the item list one more time, just have a good idea of what exactly was going down, because Zav's finally awakening on this Ruby pandemic, the sickness that he has, finally working out very well.
Yep, going full damage again with that one brute force breastplate, allowing him to be a consistent threat in these team fights. And although Barbosa wasn't exactly landing the most hooks, his presence alone was enough to deter Monster Vicious from making over aggressive movements around the map, which allowed for Max to get so much more space when comboed together with that Astral Echo. I feel like we didn't really shout him out enough, but Moon played a huge role in a lot of these matches. The information and sniping coming in from this Novaria basically kept Monster Vicious on the back foot most of the time.
Yep. Yeah, it is very, very annoying to deal with in terms of information gathering, right? Like, of course, Niners hope they are going to be doing pretty okay for now. There's still, I agree with you, Gideon, they've got a lot more things they have to work on. However, let's talk a little bit more on Monster Vicious here. It feels like Game 3, having Subway as a pinch server kind of completely disrupted their entire chemistry teamwork, because it feels like they don't know what they are doing when they were playing with Uni.
They knew exactly what they were doing. They just weren't hitting the abilities they needed to hit. Like, Nova X Kobar probably had a pretty overall bad hit rate on those final slashes, and it felt like, again, in terms of the direction of the way they wanted to manage the fight, even for Fakes, it's very difficult for him. He wants to peel. They need to somehow bait Niners into a position where they're actually committed against MV, but at the same time, it's all under the condition that they're able to actually get to that end goal, and I don't think they were able to scale up fast enough to get rough into that position.
I feel like Monster Vicious were a little bit too stubborn this game because they had the ingredients, they had the whole instructions for their recipe here. Pick the Clod, pick the Glue, hold your side lanes, freeze them, don't interact, and then the Niners can't really do much because they're not able to catch you. But then when the objectives started happening, there was this fascination It's like, we gotta secure the turtle, we gotta secure the lord, it doesn't matter what we have to give up in exchange. And that's not the game plan they drafted with.
Yeah, it's true. They probably should have managed a lot of these neutral objectives a little bit better. Looking at the total damage, I mean, Niners almost doubling what MV had to offer on the table. And Rough and Fakes, they were trying to pump out some numbers, but you can't compare it to people like Max or even in this case, Munji, who's been doing a really good job at making sure that Subway is always on the radar.
Yeah, speaking of Subway is in position, right? Like, he is in a situation where he's there opening up the map. I feel like Zeno was doing his job as a roamer rather than as an XP laner, right? Like, it feels like he's the roamer for the team rather as an XP laner. Like, game 1, he was the prevalent force where Niners had no idea how to deal with him. But game 2 onwards, as well as game 3, it feels like Zeno just can't do what is required of him. It's like his roles kind of shifted tremendously from a killer to a roamer rather than an XP laner.
I mean, it's difficult, right? Let's keep in mind, let's say he plays Benedetta, or let's say he plays even...
I think the Benedetta would have been better for him.
At least you have some counterplay, yes, or even the Paquito, but let's say they get one of these dive-heavy heroes, even a Lapu Lapu, right? There's just so, well, like, who do you target here? Munji is too far away for a majority of these fights. You want to keep your abilities to cancel out Barbosa, and even then you still have to worry about the Bloody Hunt. Zobs is just obnoxious to deal with. It feels like you're wasting time with every single hit, and Max still has counterplay with the Metamorphosis being able to transform in and out of that Lycan form to create distance. So overall, I don't think MV made too many mistakes. I do think that Nova X Kobar was a little underperforming this time round, and I do feel that Zeno generally didn't get to play the game as much as he wanted to, and I think he could have been a more dominant force had not MV just not committed so hard on some of these turtles or even some of these lords.
Because they're not really a team composition that should be committing. They're honestly pretty good at counter-engaging. They, again, gotta wait for Niners to be the ones to make the first move, because Nova's obviously not tanky enough to dive in front and be the one to start the fight. Zeno as well, while on the glue, should normally be able to do so. You have to remember the interaction between Split with heroes like Ruby and Yuzong, because you can regen off of every single one of those globs. So again, you shouldn't be the first one in, which means MV has no true initiation, so they should play for counter engage, which is what they were doing in the first couple of minutes. And then once the objective started spawning, they just changed the mindset entirely.
Yeah, that kind of went out of the window pretty quickly. Keep in mind that some of the changes on Glue also incorporates the why he doesn't feel as tanky this time around. Like, yes, in the earlier stages, like, wow, he feels really, really good. Like, of course, because with the Slam, when you pick it up and it also makes contact with a hero on top of it when you walk over it, that's 6% of your max HP instead of 3. So that means if you whiff it and you walk over it, nothing happens anymore.
I think this is a good adaptation compared to game 1, right? Like, game 3, in this particular match here, we've got double purifies up on Monster Vicious, and Niners had a issue for game 1 where they had to peel through 2 purifies as well as a Masha with triple purifies. In this case, having the Guinevere didn't exactly allow them to do that, but with Barbosa on this Franco, it kind of allowed them to bait it out at a safe distance rather than throwing, like, a Guinevere goes in, has to use the full combo to bait out one spell, and where you have this hook where if I hit it, oh, it's okay. You know, you've purified out. It's okay. You know, I'm just going to wait for another 11 seconds. Another hook comes in. So I feel like Niners has adapted a little bit more, even though it's a very, very small thing. But obviously, Masha's got to go. Like, it's just broken.
Yeah.
It has to be a Merce ban in every single game right now.
It's way too strong. I think that a lot of teams will eventually adapt and learn multiple ways of actually dealing with it. But in this particular game, like MV versus the Niners, you can see, right? There's a lot of good ideas, actually. The way that they're playing it is they have to start peeling away their targets, but there's just too much. At a certain point, you need your main damage dealers, Fakes as well as Rough. And even for Fakes, right, he's not the most consistent. He's very burst heavy in comparison to Rough, who does have burst, of course, but at the same time does need 3 items before he's actually relevant.
It feels very uncharacteristic of Ruff as well, because it felt like he was joining these team fights a lot sooner than you'd normally expect, instead of actually like farming up the map and splitting things up. Obviously, I think his team played a role in that because they really wanted to contest all of these objectives when they really didn't need to. So all of that resulted in a big snowball, which allowed Niners to just finally push their way in, close out the game, and get their very first victory, which now that they do have their very first victory, we can see in the standings, unfortunately, still not quite enough to get them out of that 10th place spot, but it's a start.
I mean, if they 2-0 their next match, they're going to be jumping all the way up to like, they should be, that's 2-3 points. So that puts them at 7-8, which is close. And then if they even if they 2-1, right, their next upcoming match, that's still going to be putting them in contention for possibly top 6. By the end of the season, I think as long as they keep on winning consecutive rounds, if they get a single 2-0, that'd be nice. But 2-1s all the way, I still think they could very possibly qualify.
You know, considering the fact that they've lost to Barracuda means that if they were to tie against Barracuda, means Barracuda is still going to advance, right? So technically, in order for Niners to actually maintain their place in top 8 or even top 6, they have to, of course, win off all their respective 2-0s. In this case, their matchup is against SRG Todak as well as I think it's Homeboys as well. So
not easy.
Very, very difficult to do so. But for now, you know, let's save it for them. Their hopes and dreams are still alive. You can see the pressure was on the players themselves. And we do not want to add a little bit too much more pressure. Like, again, we got to keep the criticism and the, well, our opinions to ourselves, you know. Like, I don't know, man. Like, don't vandalize.
Just let the professionals handle it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let the professionals, let us on the desk take the heat for you guys. All right, we hear everything that you are saying, and if you want to be critical, that we get paid to do so. So don't worry about that. I think that overall, people have been hypercritical on the wrong factors, right?
Okay.
And I think now that the Niners have kind of like they've opened up their hearts onto the stage, kind of given up an idea about it. It just goes to show there's so many factors outside of the game that make the difference. But coming up next, we've got the Homeboys versus RSG, a very highly anticipated matchup. So Saturdays, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little concerned for RSG because Homeboys are looking more in form.
Yeah, Homeboys is one of those teams that definitely looks like they're starting to get better and better with every game since the break, whereas RSGMY still seems to be struggling a little bit to find that footing. However, we did say the same about MV and Niners for our first match, and well, we saw how that resulted. So anything can happen. These are two teams that have had a rivalry for a while, so I imagine they're gonna let sparks fly on that stage.
You know, considering that it's a new patch, it's all about adapting as well. RSG has made major changes in their team as well, and I've heard a rumor that Coach Rain is no longer going to be coaching the team, so that's going to be a big change coming from RSG, and I'm excited to see whether or not will they be able to deliver, because we're talking about the prime of RSG. In this case, they've got to buck it up and step up, because if they do not, they might actually lose their potential shot to make it into playoffs as well.
Quick correction, hiatus.
Hiatus, all right.
Whatever that means. Whatever that means. Whatever that encapsulates.
Whoever reads Hunter x Hunter will know exactly what that means. But either way, we're gonna go on a break before we go into our second match, which again, gonna be a real highlight one. Homeboys RSG, they've had a lot of history together. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen, especially since we already know that Homeboys are looking a lot stronger recently. For now, we're gonna throw it to a break. Of course, we got the mic check to leave you guys, so we're not leaving you hanging too much. But make sure to stay tuned because we'll be right back after this.
Let's go dong. Ready guys. Mati. Gorok guys. Udah flicker. Raul. Flicker semua. Raul. Patek. 448 guys. Jangan takut. Makan. Dah flicker. Ruby. Roger guys. Roger guys. Tino. Aku aman guys. Nice one. Ini dah masuk. Nice guys. Ni siapa sih hero jelek ni? Go TW guys. Gak ada flicker. Biru nggak sih? Nice one guys. Bisa. Tutup hari. Tutup hari. Nice.
Mati guys. Bisa.
Roger. Nice, boleh. Nice,
Aku claim it.
Boleh.
Nice.
Careful
Jaga form base.
Cantik.
Jaga form base.
Oh, tak ada lompat. Nice one, guys.
Nice.
Jangan risau pasal belakang. Korang guys di depan tu guys.
Go down. And guys.
Nice.
Allahu Akbar.
Nice.
Bisa.
Give me Franco, and I will destroy. Give me Franco, I will destroy.
Pull yourself ya. Bisa min guys.
Boleh.
Keluar nyalo guys. Nice banget. Keluar nyalo. Guys, nice.
Dapat lagi. Kau masih ada ulti guys.
Back. Let go.
Lagi
Nice.
guys. Kalau mati.
Nice. Got away. Nice.
Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah.
Pas.
Kami dapat jemputan daripada tim Hub untuk menyaksikan MPL My Season 13. Apa yang saya rasa dan anak-anak yang saya jaga ni rasa membahagiakan diorang. Dalam masa yang sama diorang sangat excited untuk tengok game-game MPL ni sebab selalunya kita tengok kat phone kan. So hari ni diorang dapat tengok live dan diorang pun memang suka main Mobile Legends ni. Alhamdulillah rezeki kita orang dijemput dan kita orang sangat berterima kasih kepada tim Hak sebab jemput kita orang untuk dapat rasa pengalaman tengok MPL My secara live.
Kami dari tim Hak ingin mengucapkan selamat hari raya
Hello guys, I'm Rose.
Hi guys, I'm Stormy.
Hai, saya Gojes.
Chemistry korang on stage memang sangat-sangat hebat. Tapi bukan pasal chemistry je, nampak pun friendship korang memang close knitted. What's the secret? Korang macam mana korang buat aktiviti ke, macam mana korang bond?
Oh, kita orang play other games also and kita orang usually keluar juga. Contoh kita orang pergi keluar makan, pergi keluar beli barang dapur sama-sama. And macam lain-lain. And plus we are also under 20 also, so we really bond really well.
I see. So nampaknya dorang memang banyak activities together. And on top of that, dorang punya age plays a big factor in their bonding session. Alright, question, especially for you, Sneak. How confident are you to jumpa Todak minggu ke depan?
2-0. Apa? Sebab apa?
Sebab apa?
Todak without me? What is Todak, bro?
Oh my
god.
Alright.
Dia kontol.
So for upcoming for Todak, Todak they like to cheese pick also, but we have our own cheese prepared, like Misita go lane, Mia go lane.
Don't spill too much.
Pelbagai kejayaan dapat dikecapi, sejarah baru telah tercipta. Namun, setakat itu sahajakah kemampuan kita? Setiap kali ke pentas dunia, pasti kecewa. Sampai bila kita nak kalah? Ditundukkan serendah-rendahnya. Sampai bila kita nak dihina? Tiap musim harapan peminat gugur. Sampai bila nak kalah? Sampai bila nak kecewa? Setiap rakyat pasti akan melaungkan semangat, ingin mempertahankan rumah mereka. Jika patah sayap Raja Wali, bertongkat jua kita kemari. Tahun ini pastinya kemenangan semakin dicita demi menjulang nama Malaysia di pesada dunia. Di mana bumi dipijak, disitulah langit dijunjung. Stadium MBSJ Serdang Jaya secara rasminya menjadi rumah MPL MY pada tahun ini. Seterusnya, melangkah ke arena besar di Timur Tengah, di Riyadh, Arab Saudi. Juara kita bangkit menghadapi cabaran, bersedia mencipta sejarah. Utara, Timur, Barat dan Selatan, kita semua MPL MY Playoff musim ke-14 akan berhijrah ke Johor, mendekatkan lagi silaturahim MPL MY bersama. Hasrat kita semua bersatu dan bangkit dengan satu tujuan yang sama. Naikkan martabat negara, kecari juara dunia, kemuncaknya di M6. Pastikan kemenangan dan kebanggaan dikecap di rumah kita. Untuk melakukan serangan yang sebenar, tarik nafas yang panjang. Kerana triple magic kuda 2-1 dalam keadaan yang sangat-sangat mudah.
Selamat datang ke MPL Malaysia musim ke-13, di mana yang terbaik akan berentap dalam pertempuran sengit dan penuh strategi. Seperti pada musim yang lepas, 10 pasukan profesional akan bersaing selama 6 minggu dalam arena yang penuh aksi di regular season. Namun, bermula pada musim ini, cuma 6 pasukan akan layak ke play-off dan pasukan di tempat ke-7 dan ke-8 hanya dapat stay untuk musim seterusnya. Tapi sayang sekali, tiada slot ke play-off buat mereka pada musim ini. Bagi pasukan di tempat ke-10, slot musim ke-14 mereka akan diganti oleh tempat pertama MAL Conference Group. Mereka akan di-reset dan harus merebut kembali peluang melalui MAL musim kedua. Dan apa itu MAL? Mobile Legends Bang Bang Academy League adalah liga amatur di mana terlahirnya bintang-bintang baharu. 15 pasukan akan bersaing untuk meraih kejuaraan dan 2 pasukan MPL Conference Group teratas akan berpeluang merebut slot ke MPL Malaysia musim seterusnya. Okey, kembali ke MPL. Pasukan MPL Malaysia tempat ke-9 akan berentap dengan pasukan tempat kedua dari MAL Conference Group dalam pusingan MPL Malaysia Challenger Stage bersama format Best of 5 semasa Grand Final MAL musim yang pertama, di mana pemenang akan menentukan slot terakhir MPL Malaysia musim ke-14. 6 pasukan yang layak ke play-off akan berentap untuk meneruskan jalan ke Grand Final MPL Malaysia musim ke-13 dan merebut peluang untuk ke MSC 2024. Jadi, bersiap sedia. Persiapkan strategi anda. Bersedia untuk aksi profesional di pentas MPL Malaysia musim ke-13.
berbahaya. Innova Escobar terus jatuhkan oleh Max tanpa sebarang masalah. Tapi Max masih masuk ke hadapan mencari round yang win skor rendah. Double kill diberikan pada Max. Barbosa cuba untuk mencari ruang fakers. Hampir saja terkena stasiun pada Munji. Tapi Max dapatkan triple kill pula. Uni cuba untuk bertahan. Tapi untuk kembali Uni memberikan tanda.
Oleh Innova Escobar sendiri. Wow.
Oh, Barbosa cuba.
Baik.
Tapi tak boleh sebenarnya. Zaf terus dijatuhkan oleh Zeno. Mau masuk lagi ke hadapan. Menyebang seterusnya Max hilang. Lompatan oleh Zaf. Dia kena form pada Yetri pada arah belakang. Tapi fakers yang ditumbangkan oleh Max terlebih dahulu. Namun daripada arah depan, Zeno mau cuba untuk mencari mangsa yang ada. Max ditumbangkan oleh Rao menjadi mangsa seterusnya. Yetri dah tak ada. Kali itu pasukan Monster Venus masih lagi untuk mendapatkan kill yang ada. Zeno mau telah ditumbangkan. Mencari Zaf kali ini yang cukup rendah. Tapi double kill kali ini diberikan oleh Barbosa kepada pasukan Monster Venus. Sangat cantik sebenarnya menjatuhkan Innova Escobar. Zeno mau yang cukup rendah termasuk dengan Venus. Tapi Max mendapatkan double kill mendapatkan Zeno mau. Rao juga untuk barikan diri. Tapi tengok bagaimana pasukan.
Berminat untuk mengetahui info lanjut mengenai prestasi pemain dan jadi sebahagian daripada MPL Malaysia? Layari laman rasmi Liga Isukan nombor 1 Malaysia untuk dapatkan maklumat terkini dan lengkap. Layari laman rasmi MPL Malaysia sekarang. Ayo kita bersama menaikkan mutu MLBB di Malaysia. Jangan terlepas kemas kini Liga Academy rasmi MLBB Malaysia, MAL Malaysia. Ikuti semua platform rasmi kami. Ayo sokong MAL Malaysia musim pertama. Ikuti semua platform rasmi. Semua peminat dan penyokong dijemput ke arena MPL Malaysia musim ke-13 di Serdang. Anda berpeluang berjumpa dengan pemain kegemaran anda, kumpul tanda tangan eksklusif dan sertai kempen Fan of the Season.
Interested in knowing more about player performance and be a part of MPL Malaysia? Visit the website of MPL Malaysia's #1 esports league for the latest news and league updates. Don't miss out on updates from the official MLBB Malaysia Academy League, MAL Malaysia. Follow all our official platforms. All fans are invited to the MPL Malaysia Season 13 Arena in Serdang. You will get a chance to meet your favorite players, get exclusive autographs, and join the Fan of the Season campaign.
Satu skala Kenji Duit dan Albert di sana ternyata harus hilang.
Edge fight as Long gets instantly shot down by the Blazing Duet as well as the Electro final blow. This is going to be easy cleanup for Todak as most of the...
Apat yun, pero nasipa din siya yung ninakaw na sipa. Buhay pa rin ang 41!
Backline already, and they're running for the lives. Gunning it. David trying to drag the members of RSG right underneath the turret. It's not enough though. Gray coming all the way in. He cleans it all the way out. Just nowhere for him to run. Just...
Kita kata ada satu buah reward point yang membuat pergerakan dari Mika terlalu benar-benar slow. Rafanya sudah tumbang.
Menang, kalah, pressure, harapan, skill, mistake, dari.
MPL Malaysia Season 13 is powered by Moontalk. Enjoy a superior 5G network and lightning-fast gaming experience only with our official mobile internet hotlink. A big shout out to ROG Phone 8, the official gaming phone, for keeping our players at the top of their game. Grind on with Nescafe to keep your gaming spirit going. Thank you to all of our sponsors and partners for your support in MPL Malaysia Season 13.
Hey you! Yeah, you there! There's something on your screen! It's MPL My Season 13! Welcome back to the English broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, for our second match of the day, which I think many consider to be the highlight of Saru Saturday. My name is Stafa, along with Terrence, aka IcyBaby12, as well as Gideon.
It's good to be back once again, but this is the biggest one. I'm curious to see how so many things are going to start panning out, especially for RSG MY. Bottom of the table, looking for some points, and Homeboys on the up and coming, on the rise, warmed up for the season already.
Yeah, speaking of the fights as well, we've heard a lot of changes coming from RSG MY, especially with their coach here. We did briefly talk about Coach Rain being on hiatus. And of course, at the same time, Homeboys, they seem to take a little bit of a lost turn here because they were the first few to brought in the chips into the meta, and now just off today's draft itself, we've seen chips being a prio ban in every single game. They are quite quick to adapt apparently, and hopefully those adaptations is going to put Homeboys in a little bit of an upper edge.
Yeah, I really hope to see more chip gameplay. It's always so fun, it's always so entertaining, and the whole reason that we're able to bring all these entertaining moments to all of you at home is thanks to our official gaming phone, ROG Phone 8. Make sure you guys scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen right now if you guys want to learn more about the device that allows our players to compete at tip-top performance.
And keep an eye out because you might actually spot some of these highlights by ROG where you get to see the hand cam of some of these players, so make sure that you are keen on watching the show. Speaking of which, right, a lot of mechanics have been shown, a lot of priorities have been sort of shifted here. It begs the question whether blue or red side is still, well, generally prior to the patch, blue side was the more dominant side. Now, I'm not so sure.
You know what? I don't really care about who's blue, who's red, especially for this matchup. You know why? Because I'm curious to see who is the better smack talk. Is it Util or is it Repo? Who's the real king of taunting, man? Like, this is the matchup. Like, whoever wins this is got to have the biggest bragging right now. Imagine this. Util wins. Repo, king of taunt. Yeah. Guess what? I'm the one.
You are right.
And if, you know, vice versa, Udil, you're from Indo. Go back.
Yeah, honestly, we have had a lot of drama. We've had a lot of spice happening up on that stage, and both these teams have some spicy players. So we got a video for you guys to tell you all about it.
Sabar. Udil mana Udil? Udil!
Kita baru je habis separuh regular season di MPL Malaysia musim ke-13. Dan pemain-pemain pun dah spicekan musim ini sejak hari pertama.
Tapi 2-0 ni macam mana dah? Easy banget.
Namun, mari kita dengar dari pandangan penonton, siapakah pemain paling spicy dalam MPL Malaysia musim ke-13?
Saya rasa paling spicy adalah Udil. The one and only Udil Subarti. Udil. Spiciest player season 13, Udil kot. Udil.
The spiciest player in MPL season 30 is Sasa to me.
Spiciest player in MPL adalah Zon. So, recall lebih-lebih lah untuk enemy.
Udil lah. Udil. Kita pilih Udil.
Udil is the spiciest player, I think.
Looks like a lot of our fans agree that Udil has been spicing up the MPL MY stage. What do you think? Do you agree?
Hey, fair enough, you know. For season 13 in particular, Udil is the hot topic. He's definitely the hot sauce. But if we're talking about the previous seasons here, it's a little bit debatable. We've got Repo here and there. We've got Zorn from here. But at the same time here, I've got a quick question here. Because in the hot topic here, how spicy is actually too spicy? Gideon, what do you think?
No, there's no such thing. I think that I think as long as the players are the ones doing it and putting on that show, the fans are here to enjoy, and they are the ones who are supposed to be respectable. I think the players, at the end of the day, it's a very small, closed-off circle in the professional scene, and they're all friends behind scenes anyway. So,
okay, so
really not
where's
making
the
a
limit?
difference.
Where do you draw the line?
Where do I
Don't
draw
touch
the
that
line?
family, right? What
No, family is on the table.
Whoa,
okay.
whoa.
Family's on the table. Threats. What else? How far can we actually go with this one? Hoping for clinically morbid diseases. I can't think of anything more other than that.
Yeah, I think you gotta come closer here.
Yeah, I
because
think
it sounds
I'm
very
not sure.
dangerous.
I'm not sure if we can allow him on the desk anymore. Like after this, this doesn't. I am not. I'm not sure if this is what we want to promote for MPL, but some parts are correct. In that the players are friends behind the scenes. They know it's all for entertainment. They know it's to play out the crowd and just to flex a little bit here and there, as long as it doesn't go too far. I'm sure everyone knows it is a good time. But without further ado, Homeboys versus RSG. The Homeboys, is it all systems go? Are they ready to unleash their ultimate form?
Yeah, speaking of ultimate form here, I want to see whether or not are they going to play Mao the equation, right? Because so far they've been really, really well. They've lost a couple of shaky games, maybe drafts here, maybe a little bit of integrations here. They looked to be technically the strongest team coming into the early stages of week 1, but now in week 4, we've seen a little bit of cracks into his Homeboys draft in terms of playstyle. It might be a little bit in terms of the drafts as well. What do you think? Does the current meta suit their current draft, especially quote-unquote Assassins are back in the table?
I think it definitely does, and I still don't think Assassins are necessarily back on the table just yet until we need to break out performance. We need to see what exactly are the conditions that need to be met to make sure that these Assassins actually have a good time. My biggest concern is whether or not Ruby is going to get thrown into the gold lane once more, especially for somebody like Nets, who is like, I will dominate this lane with or without a fighter.
Yeah, the Ruby gold lane definitely has been a point of contention so far for us here on the English desk. But I think going into this matchup, we already discussed this in the previous, at the end of the previous match, where it's very clear where one team is a little bit preferred Homeboys on a 3-game win streak. I'm sure they're looking for some vengeance as well, because RSG, they were sent down previously by Homeboys to the lower bracket in last season's playoffs. So we already know there's a rivalry between these teams, and I'm sure they want to bring it to the table.
Yeah, I want to see whether or not are they going to be able to send Homeboys down in the leaderboard instead, because Homeboys is aiming for that top 2. But of course, without further ado, let us introduce both these teams.
Homeboys! When you talk about spicy, you're referring to the boys. Extra badass with all the spice they need to extend their winning streak. Will they be able to humble their next opponent in style and swag? Welcome in the Owls of MPL Malaysia. It's the Homeboys! A team that's been forced to recover swiftly after a series of disappointing results. This team will now have the march on without Coach Rain by their side. But rest assured, as Coach Sora is here to keep the team together, will new playstyles and new strategies be unleashed? It's GG RSG! And of course, no match is complete without the coach and analysts of both teams, who will be escorted up on stage by our head of League Ops, Cedric, who is always here to ensure fair play and professional integrity. We got Coach Pods and Assistant Coach Nobody for the Homeboys, with Coach Sora for the side of RSGMY. To close things up, we got fist bumps going across the stage. Rivalries will be flared as we enter the land of dawn.
Well, that was a very, very exciting match here. I was expecting a little bit more taunting coming from both sides. We are talking about the two spiciest team, right? Like Homeboys, you know, I was expecting like, hey, Repo, I'm gonna smack talk you right now. I don't care. I'm Udil. I'm the man.
Yeah, they say that as they're fist bumping each other. Like, not that we can hear any of it because they have no mics up there on stage, but I think we'll hear this. We're definitely going to hear this match talk later. We're definitely, you know, Well, I do want to see whether the fans are going to be just as excited. We've got a full house here today to watch this matchup between RSG MY and as well as the Homeboys. The scariest part, I think, is going to be when it comes down to the draft, because now, without Coach Rain, is that really going to affect them overall from the drafting point of perspective? Because again, you arm your players, and then the coach is like, all right, we practice this, it's all up to you now for execution.
Yeah, I think when it comes to drafts is one thing. Chemistry is also another factor, right? Because of the fact that RSG has had a little bit issues with shuffling between the XP laners, right? Initially they had Kaiser, and then now they have Repo. Have they fixed it over the weeks, especially after Raya? So I feel like RSG is in a situation where is it the leadership issue, or is it a team issue, or is it just a draft issue? And on top of a new meta coming in, have they fixed what's going wrong for them right now?
And I think up until this point, RSG MY, their gameplay has been looking inconsistent. And I don't really think we can pinpoint it to any one particular factor, because there always is some problem in one way or another. If their draft is good, their gameplay is missing. If their gameplay is solid, the coordination is kind of missing. Or like we have player egos getting in the way and putting them out of position. Or the draft doesn't quite suit the win condition they're looking for. So they really need to collect all of that together, because it's clear that this is a team that has a lot of potential. But of course, we have to introduce the team, starting off with the Homeboys. We got Udil, Sapat, Nets, Chibi, and Zorn as the in-game leader.
It's hard not to be excited for this particular team, right? Because again, they've corrected themselves when they decided to actually switch out their roster for gold lane as well as mid lane, picking up Udil and as well as Nets. I mean, look at the stats, right? It kind of speaks for itself. This patch in particular is also pretty good. Zorn, a majority of the tanks got a recent, well, a little bit of an adjustment in terms of the way that they scale with armor, but same goes for things like Farsa. Udil is one of the only few members, well, few players actually in the entirety of MPL MY who is willing to bring the Farsa pre-patch.
Yeah, it's insane considering the fact that he has been hitting some really, really sick shots, right? And on top of it all, Sapat is one of the very few XP laners that really, really performs well on Paquito despite the buffs coming in. So I want to see more Paquito. I don't know yet. But of course, from the other side, the opponents, the man in blue, we've got RSG MY starting things off with Izanami, Loleo, Repo, Storm, as well as Vinogo. And of course, Storm, known as the in-game leader for RSG MY. What are your thoughts on this?
RSG MY definitely still looking for their footing overall. They were, of course, the team to beat in the previous regular season, and unfortunately met a unfortunate end in the playoffs by bowing out early. They, of course, have a lot to prove this season, but I also feel like the pressure of that has been beating on their shoulders. Despite everything, their players are all very promising overall. We know Izanami is willing to get down and dirty, do what his team needs to do. I think that Repo has moments of brilliance here, being able to cut out fights. Loleo and Vinogo still going to be looking a little bit more on that consistency overall.
I think with the addition of Repo back into the roster now, it's going to change the team dynamic, right? I think that Repo is a pretty vocal player overall. When it comes down to his laning, he very heavily prioritizes making sure that he goes even with his laner, even if he does decide to lose out on priority a little bit late, but he communicates that. He reflects it back in comparison to Kaiser, who's willing to sacrifice anything and everything to make sure that he creates a man advantage during these neutral takes.
Well, it's going to be a difference of approach on how they tackle the situation. But in the XP drafts here, Sapat and Repo does have very, very similar hero pools as well. But of course, Sapat has been known for his Paquito. I don't know. I want to see more Paquito. Like, we haven't seen enough Paquito despite the buffs prior to this patch as well. I want to see more. Like, I was expecting maybe, hey, we're going to see more Paquito jungles, but we saw a couple of games here and there. They didn't exactly do too well, but the ones that showed up, it looked good for me.
When we're talking about like EXP lane fighters here, we of course had been seeing a good amount of Ruby, of Paquito, of Lapu Lapu and so on. And the way that these fighters used to be built was that it was more of a semi-tank situation where you get 1 or 2 damage items, then you lock in with like Dominance and Athena Shield. Now, with the nerfs to defense items overall, you generally just want to go straight for full damage. So we'll see whether or not that fits within what these teams want to bring to the Land of Dawn. For now, though, the question on everyone's minds, what are the pros and cons of assassin junglers?
This one's going to be real tough here because I think a lot of people are going to be thinking that now that the changes to some of these assassins is going to make them more viable, and especially with the nerfs to the overall items when it comes down to just straight up armor, right? Which a majority of our assassins are going to be very physical, unless we're talking about Gusion, but that's a separate topic altogether, as it can be played in the mid lane as we've seen in some of these regions. Pros, what's good about them? They can snipe the backline. That's their biggest strength. The fact that they're hyper mobile, extremely nimble, and high peaks of damage. It sounds like a good idea until you start considering the utility items that make them not as good even before the patch where the armor got reduced, right? Winds of Nature is still very difficult to deal with. Tank junglers smother them completely.
Yeah, and at the same time as well, heroes, I think like Link as well as Hayabusa had a very, very hit nerf previously here, but now in the current patch, it feels like it gives them a little bit more room to work with. And personally, I feel like the biggest sellout for me would be the Hellcurt, which unfortunately is not going to be allowed until week 6. So, to be honest, I want to see Homeboys pull this out because Chibi, when he played his Hellcurt as a signature during Season 8 as well 69, whenever they pull out the Hellcurt, they kind of win games. They take advantage of the fact that the Dark Knight's Falls gives them so much macro advantage, and on top of it all, it does so much damage in this situation. So I can't wait to see it happen, but of course for this game, we're not going to see it. But here is going to be a WhatsApp message for you, WhatsApp message for you by Udil. He said that which season do you want to, which team do you want to fight which season? Sorry, my PM is pretty bad. I think you didn't be on the same boat. Please translate this.
It's basically asking Udil which team they want to fight this season, and he's basically saying none of them are qualified to be strong opponents for the Homeboys, but they do want to encounter RSG, King Empire, and Todak because they are steady. And so like basically but he still doesn't really look too strongly upon them. It's just like basically the best of the worst.
The best of the worst. They have no will to fight. They've got no fire in them, in the quotes of Udil. Interesting to say. Let's see whether or not the RSG MY can prove him wrong as we go into the picks and bans. It's going to be RSG on blue side, dedicated to their colors, and Homeboys on the red side.
Alright, let's see how this will kick off. Homeboys being on the red side means that they will probably be forced to ban out similar things with the Antler, the Matilda, but because they do like the chip, we will expect them to manipulate the draft so that they could potentially pick it up. They've banned out the Masha themselves.
You know, personally, I feel like, you know, despite them banning off the chips, right, I feel like RSG MY should prioritize on the Grok a little bit more because, you know, first few weeks, Grok has had a very, very big impact with Wind X playing it really well, Storm as well. And with this current patch coming in, especially with the tank items being nerfed down, Grok isn't affected too much if you think about it, because if he itemizes Hybrid into the game where he still builds a physical attack item, his growth rate with his passive still gives him that defense upper edge compared to other tanks.
I agree. When I did my patch note review, I kind of figured that Grok would most likely be a hero we'd still see despite the potential adjustments, but more potentially as an EXP laner rather than a roamer now that you want to build him for full damage.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I agree with that sentiment 100%. I think that teams need to start taking that into consideration, especially if you're going up against like really obnoxious things looking to kind of snuff you in lane. Things like Glue, for an example, right? You don't really want to interact with the lane anyway, so you might as well go for a fast clear, quick rotate, and make some impact across the map. Ooh, Homeboy's getting rid. Oh, dude, Udil wants to play Farsa so bad.
Yep. When you see Valentina being banned, it's typically going to be something like the Faramis that they want to contest, but the Farsa is definitely a possibility here.
I actually like the Faramis up on Udil, right? Like, just because of the fact that if they are lacking in terms of magical damage, they can still opt to go for a Natan, they can still opt to go for Harif. Maybe with Edith if they want to, but forcing Zord to play Edith doesn't fit my style. But RGMY says, you know what, I'm going to take the Harif away. No Harif for you, Homeboys. Pick the Faramis, doesn't care. Wait, Faramis banned. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I think that RSG, again, when I see these first picks, whether it's Roger or even Harith, I'm already getting nervous, right? If this could go anywhere at this point in time. Homeboys, they opt to go for an early Nolan here, despite everything that has been done to him. And now in the same kind of boat with Fanny and as well as Hayabusa, where they've reduced his energy costs overall. So even like we saw on day one of week number 4 with Bounty Esports, Nolan, when Yuna's Nolan basically never had his purple buff for at least 14 minutes of the game, he was still capable of farming in the lane itself.
He'll definitely make for a much more comfortable position overall.
Oh boy.
We see instantly the Angela CC combo. This is a very scary one. CC has definitely been a fighter that would be hit somewhat with the nerfs to defensive equipment, but again, you can go for more damage and make up for it with the Heart Guard. So this is going to be a great matchup into the EXP lane Barats.
I actually like this draft coming from RSGMI, just because of the fact that the Angela can synergize with both the Harif and CC. Either or, whoever gets hypercharged with this, he is gonna 1v4 throughout this entire fight. But what I don't like about Homeboys' opening pick is that they showed both the Noron and Barats. That's a pretty clear cut that Barats is an XP laner. That's a pretty clear tell. There's no flexibility whatsoever. I don't know. I don't think Homeboys is gonna think outside the box and say like, hey, you know what, Barats roam. I highly doubt that.
Probably not. Normally, I also am not a big fan of like revealing these potential flex heroes spots early on, but I think in this particular case, Homeboys just wants to make sure that it doesn't go over the RSG because they know that the Angela Barats was a possible combination.
Yeah, I think that as of right now, I still think I would agree with Terrence that Barats as well as Nolan is not exactly your common opener for a lot of these teams. So I want to see how they want to plan around this, right? Because Homeboys still haven't locked in their mage. They're banning out the Boxia to make it real difficult for RSG. They're trying to take away as many tank junglers as possible and force RSG to say, hey, come, let's play Assassin v Assassin.
I hate this. Like, I really hate where I'm seeing, but the tell coming from Homeboys of showing that, hey, we're going to ban the Boxia means that we are going to try and mirror this by going for a healing composition. I don't think Zorn is going to play the Florin. Most likely Minotaur is going to be banned, but RGMY, they opted to go and ban the Loi instead. But still, again, I'm not a big fan of Zorn playing a Florin, but if they ban off the Minotaur, it means that Zorn may or may not be forced to mirror an enchanter against an Angela.
I still think it's fine if he just picks up Pro, right? Single target lockdown, and considering that they have Natan on their side, they can also go for like Kaja as well, both of which kind of fit the play style overall.
I think Ruby though.
I think like Cho and Kaja in particular got hit really hard this patch because they are fighters that kind of rely on tanky items that actually play in the roam position. So because they didn't get like the stat increase that other tanks got, and now their items are less efficient, it may not be as good as a roamer anymore.
Well, it may not be as good as a roamer, but you can't deny that the ult is just too good to deny. Especially like Kaja in this type of composition for Homeboys, where the majority of the damage is going to be coming from like Natan in the later stages of the game, or even for Nolan, where you just need a second if he is ahead to blow somebody up with or without the MR reduction.
Fair enough, fair enough. They do ban out the Hilda, so they want to make sure Chibi has a good time in the jungle.
What else could they potentially go for the ban here? They've already got one. I
think ban the Minotaur as a safety net, just because of the fact that if they want to try and heal, have a little bit of healing composition, but even that Minotaur has been nerfed in this recent patch as well. His heals does not give as much as before, you know, even though he stacks based on magic power. But now they don't really care. They're gonna double down on the double major. They want to make sure Udil is gonna be playing on that Farsa. Farsa, not exactly a great hero to deal with both the CC and Harif. Too much mobility to deal with.
I think the safest mage option would probably be something like Vex here.
Yeah.
If you're able to land a Terrify, you could potentially Terrify 2 people at once if it's the Heart Guard target, but still kind of vulnerable because RSG has a lot of dive here.
Yeah, I think instead they should go for their support. I think that they want to see RSG's full draft, whether or not they're going to commit to the assassin or not. Oh, but if they go Farsa, it's more incentive for RSG to actually go for an assassin.
This is actually very, very ballsy coming from Homeboys.
Yeah, they're challenging them.
I'm not a big fan of this Farsa just because of how difficult it is to actually hit those skill shots if RSGMY is just running circles, right? Like, they need a hard lockdown, and currently, they don't really have that besides the Barats, which, again, opening up with the Daytona's welcome, but no lockdown means that it's going to be tough. Like, Farsa needs to hit his shot. Again, they have to chain it, very easily disrupted. But RSGMY, they bring the Mortis and the Grok. Not a good game for Farsa at all.
I think that is a Grok EXP lane, right?
No, not.
Oh wait, no, SCC, my bad. Yeah. Still a Grok roam. Okay.
Yeah, just to make sure that Farsa doesn't get like too ahead of herself here. I think for as of right now, Kaja is looking so good, so very good for Homeboys. I mean, Martis, like, oh yeah, anti-CC, so I don't necessarily get disrupted when I am going to go for these neutral objectives. But with suppression, that's a whole different story. And you're going to have two different types of suppressions. One to be able to kind of sit in front of your opponents, and the other to really punish people who overstep their boundaries.
This is tough. This is a tough situation for Zorn right now. Like, whatever he picks is going to be very important. And you called it. Kaja is going to be the way to go. Make sure they isolate one of the targets, take him out, execute him, and just shut him down. In this case, the Farsa will work really well. However, it's up to Stone to deny that.
I really like this. I really like what Homeboys did. I love how Sora Bio also considered the possibilities of a lot of CC might come. A lot of like crowd control might really affect the team. So they're getting a lot of heroes that can actually supplement that, stow them on this Grok as a natural counter to this Farsa, but at the same time can conveniently open up the map. They were expecting to deal with the Cho, but Homeboys, they went for the Kaja. So again, well played. I would say that both teams have a very equal draft.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very active draft as well. Lots of stuff is going to happen right from the get-go.
Yep, and of course, to find things out, who's got a better execution here? The drafts has been set. We're heading towards the game of the day for Saru Saturday. This is Homeboys versus RSG MY as they duke it out as who is going to be the better team.
Ooh, I feel like the Land of Dawn is gonna become a bloodbath very soon here. We already know the rivalry between these two teams, and now they both drafted team compositions that can play very hard, very fast, and want to be quite aggressive early. We're gonna have a fun time.
Yeah,
it's gonna be spicy.
It's gonna be more than spicy, right? Because keep in mind that both of these teams, if they get a lead, and depending on who they get the lead on, they can adjust their game plan throughout the game. It's not just one singular game plan, one singular out that they have. They have multiple ways of actually dealing with it. Both compositions from Homeboys as well as RSG MY generally want to do the same thing. However, it is going to come to a point where scaling is gonna really make the difference here. And I would say, as of right now, Homeboys have the better scaling composition.
I agree overall. Natan definitely scales much better compared to Harif, and then Martis and CC are the type that will somewhat fall off come a late game. So Homeboys have a slight bit of a safety net here to play around with.
Well, at the same time here, looking at how RSGMY is just playing a little bit slow, they are going to be waiting up with those 4s. But again, once the level 4 is up, the Divine Judgment on Storm is going to be a big threat for Storm, right? Quote-unquote, Storm is supposed to be immune to CCs, but if you walk up to Zorn, he is going to drag you into the tower, and that's going to be a death sentence for RSGMY. So as of yet, Storm, he needs to be very, very careful on when and where he should be starting those fights. But for now, Homeboys, they're setting up a very aggressive ambush here. Chibi debating if he still wants to stay, but looks like he is going to try and snipe off his Nami. Looking for the kill. Almost get it though. 1 HP, and he's going to try and get out. Guidance Barrier is going to keep him away. He will zip out as well. Flicker coming from Zorn, but Homeboys, they are able to get out.
Good disengage. However, Zorn did end up losing his Flicker, which is going to be really sad because he's not going to have it when he hits level 4 when they're playing around this upcoming turtle. And so far, so good. At the very least, they were able to get Izanami's Flicker off of him, but man, Izanami, did he really need it? Oh, stow him.
Okay. Yo, okay, so
very deep.
He needs to get out. He's going to go for a sidestep. GB, he's overcommitting. Okay, wait, what? How is he not? He's buying time. He's buying so much time. He's going to be A-okay because right now, Turtle, they lose Stone, but at the same time, they are going to force a fight on Repo as well. Harscon keeps him alive for now, but Homeboys, they will be able to trade even more here. Izanami is going to pay with his life. RSGMY, they get the Turtle, but at what cost?
This is going to be quite the bloody battle, and the Turtle Slain going over to RSG side. Vinoga can only do so much, but it was a very good call, right? The extra bit of time allows Vinogo to actually secure the turtle for himself, but this is going to be a constant back and forth. There's multiple ways, flexible team fights, and a lot of counterplay for each side.
We knew this was gonna be quite the active game, and we're already getting it straight off the bat here. Lots of rotations. I think it was very well played by Storm to just buy that much space, meaning that Chibi couldn't come for the turtle fight. But you have to remember that with Daytona's Welcome and Divine Judgment, Homeboys have multiple ways to set up someone in place for that feathered airstrike, which is how even Rippo ended up falling despite the hard guard.
I think as of right now, Homeboys, because of that one kill going over to Subot side, they have control over the top side of the map, right? As of yet, Subot has full control over the lane, and I do not think that Rippo is going to be able to push him out just yet.
Yeah, and as of yet, Zorn, he's going to keep in check his Storm. Storm needs to make sure that Udil can't pop the better airstrike, but it's going to be very, very difficult to do so. But as of yet, Homeboys are doing a fantastic job. They're calling Sapat early in to try and set up for fights, but again, if that happens, means Repo is going to get a free lane up top to actually break it out as well. But again, this is still a pretty close match. Bottom lane, Zorn thinking for a Divine Judgment. They are going to pull Storm in. Immune or not, it doesn't matter because it goes through it all.
Blasted, absolutely blasted here. They're also not going to be up for a while. Oh, hold on.
Okay, Zorn, he's going to force the out as well. Vinogo almost getting the kill. Zorn with the sustains. Kaja still have some fight in it with those spell vamps. Meanwhile, Sapat getting a little bit aggressive here. Sapat, what are you doing? He might be in a little bit of trouble. Repo going to be chipping it away. He's going to try and poke and gauge the damage for now. Storm trying to lock him up. But at the same time, this is a gigantic dinosaur. You don't really want to mess with him for now, but here comes the Daytona's welcome. He is going to gobble on Vinogo. Feather Astrike comes in. It's not going to get canceled, and GB takes him down, takes the turtle. They're going to go for more. They've got the hard scout on Repo. He needs to get out. The wall block is going to try and buy a little bit more time, but Izanami is going to fall. Triple kill for Chibi. And RSG, they lose another. Udil finds the kill. Homeboys, 8-0. RSGMY cannot fight back at all.
No, they don't have the tempo. Man.
We asked the question before the game, is it all systems go for the Homeboys? I think they are. They are actually playing the best we have seen this entire season right now. The coordination is great. Their timing is perfect. The identification of how far they're capable of diving and splitting up targets between members is excellent.
It's been looking so good. Here we go again. Zorn's just waiting. He's going to keep on baiting Storm here. And unfortunately, I think that Storm was a little too trigger happy as soon as he saw Zorn. Oh, sorry. As soon as he saw Sapat actually gobble up Vinogo by the turtle earlier on. I think he just needs to wait, right? The main damage dealers, whoever gets suppressed, it doesn't matter as long as they're able to zone them out or at least cancel their big abilities. And in this case, it's Udil. And if Nets is not there, you definitely need to cancel the Feather Airstrike.
Yeah, in this case, right now, Udil is getting free reign of the Feather Airstrike, right? Because every single time Storm shows his face, he is going to get dragged. Zorn with the Divine Judgment on the Grog means free damage for Udil. Lolios now pops the Salmon Force with the hard gun. He's going to try and kill Nets, but he cannot do so. And guess what? The taunt from Zorn, he's baiting Lolios into the fight. What? Zorn, you can't do that. You can't just disrespect pumped up Harif, and he gets away with it.
What? And he will, and he must. I think that so far, considering that they only lost just a tier 1 and Lolios was able to break 2 flickers and get 2 flickers from both Netzen as well as Zorn, RSGMY have another opportunity to maybe turn things around. They're not going to have the hard card, unfortunately, but if they can just delay this, right? Delay it long enough for their ults to come back up, there's a 90-second window which they can punish either Nets or Zorn for the upcoming fights.
But their positioning on the map is not appropriate for it right now. I think RSG themselves know that they are quite behind. 7k net worth disadvantage, 7 minutes in. Homeboys are in full control, and even if RSG are able to somehow get a better positioning, they don't have enough pressure.
Yeah, and as of yet, Orange Buff going to get contested. They are going to force the Retribution up on Vinogo, but at the same time, Zorn, he just got his fleeting time because right now, if he catches Storm, there's nothing much he can do to stop Udil here coming from RSGMY. They need somebody to stop that Feathered Airstrike, and currently, only Storm can do that. And, well, arguably Vinogo, but at the same time, Vinogo does not have the range to reach him at all.
Well, Vinogo and Storm are less worried about Sapat and more worried about Zorn in these types of situations, right? Because they can just body block the Daytona's welcome if necessary, and it's vice versa, right? Either Vinogo or even Storm can cancel out the Feathered Airstrike. Ideally, it's Storm because he doesn't have to put himself in so much danger.
No. There he goes. Not happening.
Yeah.
Not happening. Zorn is just targeting him all the way through. He is Udil's biggest enemy, and Zorn says, I've got you, Udil. Take him out of the equation. No worries, man. You can do whatever you want. You want to trash talk RSGMY? You want to be extra spicy? I'll make it happen for you.
Talk about being stuck between a crock and a hard place here. Zorn is making life very difficult right now for the RSG roamer, and the way that Homeboys are policing the map is basically perfect.
I don't know. I think for me, I really wish that RSG picked up that Valentina early on.
Oh, no, Storm, no, they even forced the hard guard. Did they? No, they didn't. He is gonna die to it as well. Again, Storm, 6-0. He's 0-6, 8 minutes of the game. Almost a death per minute right now for Storm. He just can't play this game at all.
Yeah, he can't. And I think he should have died without using that flicker. He needs that flicker. He really, really does. If he is going to die, at least he can make...
no! Oh, no! Here it comes, homeboys.
Zorn has not been a good influence.
Hey, man, it might not be Zorn. This could be, for all we know, it could be Nets. That's why he never wants to take the interviews.
It might be Udil.
It might be Udil as well.
Any of them.
Oh boy, easy Lord coming from homeboys, 10k net worth advantage. RSG, they've got no choice but to turtle up. In this case, even if they turtle up, what can they do at this point?
More than 1k advantage per minute here. This is insane. This is the most one-sided game we've seen, and we've had some one-sided games this season.
Yep, we have. I think this is just, it just shows how evidently that homeboys are in such a good position. RSG really was hoping that their side laners would be able to make the difference here, but unfortunately, without the support of the mid lane, and more importantly, no priority over the mid lane, homeboys get to walk around for free.
All right, Zorn is going to try and bait Storm as well, but Storm has finally lost his passion for aggression in this case. Too afraid to push out, knowing that Zorn is going to drag him out to safety. A tank forced to play defensively. Not a good sign for RSG, but considering that the Lord is coming in, they don't really have much of a choice. Zorn flicker forward! He messed up, Zorn! They catch Zorn! Can he take him out? No! He won't survive from the immortality. He's going to get out, and that is going to be the disengage from homeboys. Leo is trying his best to force a fight, but they have lost their inhibitor. Homeboys almost dropping the ball there.
Great reaction time coming out for both Storm, Lolios, and as well as Vinogo. All of which, they all saw this play being telegraphed, right? Storm uses the Nature's Barrier. There's an opening time for Zorn to actually make the play so that Udil can blast somebody down. Udil did hesitate when Zorn actually got cancelled out before actually landing the ult, flickering into the middle of 3. Wait a minute.
Oh no, he's gonna get gobbled up. Lolio, what are you doing? Get dragged back in. So no flicker, no problem. Someone is gonna send it to Zorn. Gets destroyed. Feather Ezra comes in. He needs to get out. Vinogo will be dived in. Chibi is gonna be dropping very, very far off. He is gonna die though, but it is still 4-man alive for homeboys. They get the inhibitor. They are gonna go for the crystal. Supa taking too much damage, but look at Nets go! Killing spree for Nets as they try to mow Repo down. He's gonna get dragged back again by Zorn. The fleeting time is there. The crystals is gone. Homeboys, a one-sided execution by the boys.
Nicely played.
That's just a textbook definition of clean gameplay transitioning into a solid victory. The homeboys showing us how to play Mobile Legends up on that stage and not granting their opponents a single opportunity to do anything about it.
I think so far, both drafts look to fight for tempo, and whoever maintains control of that tempo is going to have so much more momentum over everybody else. Staggering ability, staggering cooldowns, and more importantly, making sure that they take away key cornerstones of their opponents to ensure that they don't have a way back.
Oh boy, what a performance coming from homeboys. A one-sided execution. Sugar, spice, and everything nice. In this case, extra spices all across the fans here because, I don't know, the Flame Boys, you can see in the crowd, they know what's cooking. They know what's cooking.
There's energy in the stadium right now, and it is electric, and I don't blame them at all. That was stellar coming in from our defending champions right there. We know they've been getting better every single week, and we knew that they were probably the favorites just in terms of performance going into this match, but no one could have predicted how that would go.
I would agree with that. It's really, really tough to actually deal with, but let's have a look backstage and guess who our MVP of this game is going to be. Give it up to him, man, because they've worked so very hard to get to this point. Give it up for Chibi here, able to snowball quite hard. He couldn't get one kill, and he worked a little bit hard, and Zorn took away that first blood. But at the end of the day, without his presence, without his invades, it makes this game so much less smooth.
Yeah, he was just completely finding so many opportunities, right? He's gotten so much farm here. He was able to get set up so many plays. And on top of it all, as long as the Grok is not in Chibi's face, he's able to do whatever he wants. And to be honest, the highlights has been on Zorn just catching on Stone most of the time. But because of those plays, Chibi is able to just completely run rampant. And every single time he goes into execution, someone is gonna die. And to top it off, Chibi, level 4, playing aggressively, stopping Izanami before he gets his Heart's Guard early prior to the first turtle fight. That was crazy.
Yeah, the timings were great. The follow-up damage coming in from both Chibi and Udil were excellent. And honestly, the stats on this man are ridiculous, right? 940 gold per minute. 2,000 damage taken per minute on an assassin? How did that even happen?
Hey man, he's invading. He's looking for more ways to actually put his opponents behind. Look, by the end of that game, Chibi is already 3 levels ahead of Vinogo. And Vinogo was not having a good time, right? Because he needs the extra bit of support. He can self-sustain. He's able to get out of tight situations by himself. But at the end of the day, he still needs a little bit of an help with the execution, right? I think that if we turn the tables, right, if RSG was able to maintain tempo on that side, this could have been a snowball victory for RSG.
Yeah, I think the biggest turning factor for RSG is that because of this divine judgment from Zorn, RSG MOI should have gotten away with so much more value because of the fact that they cannot be CC'd, right? Like, technically, Udil isn't allowed to do this much damage because of both Storm and Vinogo. But because of this divine judgment, you can see how passive Vinogo was playing. And because of that, he's not allowed to snowball. And when Storm decides to get aggressive, he gets punished heavily for this. So at this point, what could they have done? Absolutely nothing.
I think the draft could have changed a little bit here. I think, you know, the idea of leave Rippo on an island, deal with the... We know that the Barats is going to show up because they went for, like, Barats into the Nolan, right? So we knew exactly what they were going for in the EXP side. I think that RSG definitely could have played along those lines a little bit more and could telegraph when this Farsa was coming out, right? I think the Valentina definitely should have been a consideration very, very early on into this matchup. And worse yet, even though they did have Angela on their side, I still feel that it would have done them good if it got thrown in towards the support, but then again, it could go either way, right? I still think that this could have been either or snowball victory for either one of these teams.
Yeah, but I think overall, Homeboy just has a few more tools to play with here because RSG are very dependent on Storm to actually start these initiations, and then for Rippo to be tanky enough to form that front line so that Lolil can go to town, right? The problem is, if Storm is just taken out of the equation straight away, and with the nerfs to defensive items, we can see that both the Grok and the CC, and the Martis as well, are honestly not nearly as tanky as they would have been in the past. So the Homeboys understood this, immediately played for that early game tempo. We saw Chibi hiding in the jungle to try and get a kill straight away. When that didn't work, they transitioned over to winning out the gold and EXP lanes, and the plan was solid.
Really good plans overall. I don't know who made that call. Was it Chibi? Was it Zorn to hide in that particular side of the map to find that free flicker from Izanami? But whoever came up with it, really, really smart. Really good, like, hard instincts to telegraph enemy movement.
And the interesting part is that they were able to get out of it. Like, technically, that is an over-aggression that should be punished, but there's nothing RSG could have done just because of the fact, like you said as well, it is an Angela mage. So technically, early game means that they don't really have the strongest damage. So if this was something else than an Angela, I think if Chibi made that exact same play, they might have just died.
Okay, I'm not going to say that Angela in the mid lane doesn't have damage in the earlier stages. I think her base numbers are good. I think it's very difficult for her to apply it because she has to walk into the line of fire, right?
Yeah.
She has to be almost melee range to actually dish out some decent damage to Chibi, and Chibi can clearly close that gap.
It's more like a DOT kind of mage rather than a burst mage.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So I see where you're getting at, but at the same time here, RGMY, again, you know, they did not expect the Kaja final pick to completely shut them down. It's just one hero that just completely denied what mobility or advantage they wanted to do with both Storm and Vinogo, right? Take advantage of the CC immunes, but Kaja just completely shut them out. Like, Zorn just made life miserable with Storm, and because of Storm dying so many times, Homeboys just took advantage of the lead. And to top it off, what can you do from RSG when your in-game leader is dying so much? How can he lead the team, man?
Yeah, it's a tough situation, and I also want to highlight on the fact that you were talking about Angela being more of a DOT type mage. When you look at the draft from RSG, CC, Angela, Harif, all don't really have the most bursty damage overall. So that means that you saw Venogo being forced to use his Decimate very early on and not actually secure kills because that damage was lacking.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, even when we're looking at the Hall of Fame, right? Chibi gets to play the game for free. Technically, Venogo should have been able to play the game for free, but just can't roam as quickly, right? The carry coming in from Udil, all thanks to Zorn here, who is the best wingman, 11 assists down in the bag, and the sandbag going over to Stoem. I think the major issue is the fact that they didn't have enough lane priority, and more importantly so, this is the one time where it's like, Martis, you're just not fast enough to get into position in comparison to this Nolan, which isolates the mid lane, right? If it's a 2v2 matchup, generally you would expect Homeboys to be winning it out 90% of the time.
Yeah, we talk about assassin meta. Homeboys brought it to the table. Nolan assassin jungle. Why not, right? It worked out in their favor. But of course, let's talk a little bit more on the highlights here to start things off in this first fight. It seems like this was a very, very awkward fight for RSG MY, considering the fact that they didn't realize that Zorn had a Divine Judgment. And this is where I would say you give Homeboys an inch, they'll literally take a mile, I would say.
I think did they take a mile in this particular game? I think by 8 minutes, yes. That's when they were really pushing their boundaries here. I think that Homeboys, again, they understand how to stagger their opponents, right? Stagger cooldown specifically, whether it be battle spells or ults, right? Even in this one, you could see that Sapan found this opportunity because, hey, Zorn doesn't actually have his flicker, but neither does my opponent, so I'm a punish.
Yeah, that was so sick though. Like for somebody, like, we were just talking about it. It's like, oh wait, he's got no flicker. He's gonna be GG well played. It's okay. We're a team. Tag team. I'll tag you out. I'll catch you for you. And then, boom, here you go. Here's the Divine Judgment. You don't need flicker. I've got the dinosaur for you.
It's like a magic act, right?
Oh
you
my god,
someone
that's so
and then
cool.
you spit them into the lasso. It was very smooth. I want to give props as well to Sabat. He did such a good job of frontlining for Homeboys this entire game, basically not allowing RSG to get anywhere close. And the fact that the Homeboys were able to keep juggling damage from RSG every single time. Everyone knows, okay, this is how much damage I can tank. I'll stay to tank it, then I'll leave, let the rest of my team take over. Like, there's so much trust. The coordination has reached a different level entirely.
Well, I mean, that's the most ideal situation to be in. And I think that overall, we need to make sure that they have... I would like to give them a moniker, but what I can give them instead is a potential Zenith skin here with the Vexana Twisted Fairy Tale.
Yep, and of course the Vexana's new high rarity, first ever Zenith gift, the Twisted Fairy Tale, is currently available. First ever of its kind, you know, there's no other Zenith skin yet. And of course from the 25th all the way to March, 25th of March all the way to the 30th of April, which is going to be ending in a couple of more days here. So you better start participating to get it, because you can actually get 30% off on your first 10 type draws, as well as 50% off your daily first one draw. And you may even stand a chance to win Vexana Battle Emotes, I'm the Queen, Elimination Effect Apple of Doom, and other amazing skins. So be sure to draw it right now before it's over. First ever skin on Vexana. And guess what? Vexana, even though it's kind of quote-unquote meta, I really like the new skin.
The skin is great. Like, it is the first Zenith skin. It's really carved a niche for itself because it looks so good overall. And there's only a few days left for you guys to grab it. So if you've been missing out this whole time, this is your last chance. Make sure you guys get on that, because it's not going to be around for much longer. Just like RSG may not be around for much longer if this game goes on the same way.
Good save, good save.
Let me finish. Let me finish, man.
Let the man cook. I think that the team still has... I think that the team is not exactly in the best position in the world, but I don't think that they are the worst team. I think, considering the decisions that are being made and the movements that are occurring across the map, I think it's difficult to kind of like adapt to a situation where your comp is very tempo-based and your opponent's comp is tempo-based. So it's like once that snowball is coming at you, being able to find that counter punch that really kind of sets the tone and kind of evens out the overall momentum is difficult to find. But I think that's what RSG lacks the most, right? Mid-adaptation, mid-round, figuring out a way to say, hey, if I'm going to sacrifice my life, I need to get X, Y, and Z. How are we going to achieve that? And I think arguably, I feel like they're tunnel visioning on a couple of plays. I don't know whether it's because that's what they've been practicing in scrims, but I definitely think that Izanami could have saved Storm a couple of times with the heart guard. Just even though it feels bad to use it on him, but just wait for that tempo, play on the opposite side of the map, look to trade.
Yeah, I think by the time, the one you're referring to is like Storm's 7th death, where Izanami could have saved him, but didn't exactly use it to actually save him. So it's a little bit unfortunate here. But now let's take a little bit more in a comparison here, because when we talk about a spicy, I want to talk about the two mages here. And of course, spiciness comes from Homeboys. We've got Udil on the power distribution here against Izanami from RSG. So what are your thoughts on the power distribution so far?
I think the power distribution is pretty accurate here, right? Overall, when we're talking about a couple of factors that are going to change the game. Hero pool, Udil, I mean, he's going to stick to what he likes, right? I don't think there's really changing much to that. I think that his hero pool is a lot bigger than what we see here, but we've seen a lot more from Izanami thus far in terms of his hero pool. But then when we come down to overall performance, Homeboys have been on the rise, right? Like Udil, at the very least, never has a terrible KDA. It's either he has a near perfect KDA, or it's like a couple of deaths, but a majority of the kills go to him on top of that.
Also, we've always promoted the fact that Izanami is more of a does what needs to be done, a little bit more of a utility type mid laner, so you can see that overall, because games do last a bit longer in the hands of RSG, the numbers are a little bit lower on the averages overall. It's a different approach to the game, because we know that Udil is the more flashy playmaker style, and neither way is particularly correct. But in this meta, we're definitely seeing that teams that are willing to play hard and fast and get that snowball early do have an advantage.
Well, of course, speaking of all our debates here, let's take a look at the insider info we've got, because we've got Homeboys Nobody in the WhatsApp message. How do Filipino players compare with Malaysian players? I saw the environment here and the routine of players, and when I compare with the players in Filipino players are more passionate in MLBB. We play this game with our hearts. That's why I want to get the culture of PH to the Homeboys. Ooh. Wow, this hits deep, because I remember this interview where with Wolf as well. Like they say that in the Philippine scene, they play to survive. They play to make sure to get out of poverty. And that's what I heard.
I'm telling you, MPL PH, a lot of the entire Filipino environment, it's Mortal Kombat out there, while we're here playing King of Fighters for the most part. Yeah, there's no loss. There is not that significant of a loss, but when everything is on the line, it's Mortal Kombat at that point in time. So I think that right now, RSG, they've got to pull themselves together here against the Homeboys, because if Homeboys have adopted that mentality of every match is Mortal Kombat, as much fun as they have, I think that RSG really need to buckle down.
Yeah, they do not want to be victims of a fatality here going into game number 2. We see that the Chip and the Nolan are going to be banned out straight away by RSG. Nolan makes sense. Chibi did very well. I think Chibi is one of the most consistent Nolan players we have here in MPL MY, like only matched by Skies so far. So this is good respect.
Unless it's an international, then we don't know what happens there, right? That's his alter ego. That's his evil twin. We look at the bans. We see the Nolan banned out for the side of RSG. They don't want somebody like Chibi who excels at pushing the tempo faster than it needs to be, right? They also get rid of the Chip, but this opens up a lot of other picks, and I hope that RSG don't fall into the Angela trap again. They need to activate Izanami.
Yeah, I agree. But personally, I feel like I know I have been talking about how Chibi used to be the greatest assassin players all the way from Season 7. We haven't seen that too much over the season. Even last season as well, he didn't get to play too much assassin. So I'm really glad to see that Chibi is given the chance now. But again, I want to see it as Assassin Chibi. I'm sick of him playing tanks. I'm really bored of him saying only Martis and Fredrin, man.
Hey, man, sometimes that's just the way it is. RSG, come on, first pick that Roger. First pick that Roger.
I think they're going to double down on Angela.
No, please don't fall into
I don't like
it. Worst comes to worst, if you're giving Angela over to the Homeboys, there's only 2 players that can play it, either Zorn or Udil. And I am more than happy to be like, oh, you just get a hard guard as your big ultimate? By all means, take it. I don't have to worry about Way of the Dragon, Divine Judgment. I don't have to worry about RWM or even the Feathered Airstrike. I'm so happy if they take Angela for the side of the Homeboys, because that's just not their style.
The
True.
safest would probably be things like Roger, Frederick, or maybe even the Valentina. That's something that they would start on Izanami with. And it is the Frederick.
Huh. I don't think I've seen Loleo play Roger yet on the gold
Played it
team.
like once or twice.
He's played it. He's played it like once or twice max for sure. Homeboys on the other hand, let's see what they're going to go for. I mean, Nets didn't exactly get the most favorable matchup in the world, but he knows his job. It's like, okay, even if I don't dominate the lane, look at what my team is doing. It's just I can sit here, relax, and farm for the first time. It's crazy.
He's just the safety nets.
I don't really like if they go for the safety pick right now. In this case, the Barats as an opening again if they wanted to allow Chibi to play a tank jungler.
Yeah, why not?
It's pretty safe there, but I want to see a Paquito, but nope, it is going to be the Barats for now from Homeboys. I don't think Zorn is going to play it as a roam Barats. I think it's feasible, right? It's not the best, but well, Roger, no-brainer for Nets.
I like it. I like it. I like it. This is very much Homeboys being on brand here. The Brats, it just makes sense. We've talked about it before. RSG, let's see what the counterplay is going to be. Now that like Aerith is gone, not a lot of counterplay against this Roger thus far. We've seen Sasa actually hold out on his own, utilizing a Brody prior to this. So that could be a consideration for somebody like Loliels. Maybe, I mean, if he really wants to go out of the ordinary, Moskov.
What about true damage? Like going for the export carry coming from RGMY just to deal with the tankiness of Barats?
Not until we see what Homeboy's EXP lane is going to be.
Yeah.
Because if he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to take care of your tanky heroes. Oh no, you never get to show up in the fight because you have to deal with Paquito. You have to deal with Benedetta. Lunox, interesting. Yuzong, all right.
Whoa, this is a Izanami staple from who knows how long ago. It's basically the hero he brings out if he feels like, okay, I need to have some carry potential.
No, there is a little bit of minor changes onto his Lunox as well. It feels really, really much greater now in terms of the utility and just spamming of spells in general, right? Like, so Lunox is a great way to deal as a 10 shredder. And I feel like you don't really need true damage when you've got Lunox just completely taking advantage of those max HP percentages.
Yeah, no, I totally agree here. I think this is a really interesting pick because it does two very important things. One, it denies Roger the opportunity to actually get a kill reset with Lycan Pounce. And two, Barats is going to get absolutely shredded once Izanami achieves 3 items, or at the very least, drags the game long enough to be level 15, right? So I think Homeboys locking Udil into this Novaria is a smart option because at least if Lunox is going to try and make it play, you better hope that she is below 50% HP as soon as Udil is hitting those shots.
Yeah, I think it's great to go for Novaria here because with the Lunox and the Yuzong showing up, it's clear that RSG wants to fight into the Homeboys. So having the Astral Echo as a way to gather information and potentially slow down the engagement is going to be very valuable here since they've already committed to the Barats upfront line.
Why do I smell that Homeboys just wants Storm to play the Grok again? And just for the sake of flexing it, right? Zord picks up the chill. Oh, great. Even though you're immune, I can still kick you out of sight. Like, that's a small window, but considering how mechanically gifted Zord is and how he was able to just stand in front of Lolios and calculate exactly when to get out and still survive, it might be... Oh, okay, it's banned. All right.
Yeah.
Great, RSGMY. Why'd you back out of that? Like, just take the bet.
Well,
take the gamble.
Mainly because Grok looks a little bit better on Homeboys' side, to be fair. Right?
Okay.
It's a good disengage mechanic. They've got ways to kind of play around it. I think this is one of the few situations where I'm considering whether or not RSG might want to pick up Lolita. I wouldn't suggest that most teams want to do this, but this is one of the few situations where I need some form of disengage. I need a stun. I also need to be able to deal with the projectiles. She kind of does all three, but not in the best manner.
I think Lolita's recent change as well gives him a little bit more shields to provide as well. Every single time Lolita casts a skill, there is a extra stack of shields onto his teammates. So I see where you're getting at, but still, again, if Zord gets the Lolita, you know, what can Lunox's Darkness do?
Priestess of Primal Lightning is
But I don't think Zord is gonna pick it up. It's like if you're saying that RGMY takes this, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it.
I mean, I'm talking about RSG picking it up. Why the other way around? There we go. We see the chill from the side of the Homeboys here. They want to make sure that they can ego challenge this, and this is going to force RSG to actually pick up Purifies for both their mid laner, and I'm also guessing their gold laner.
Lunox Purify, is that good though?
Ideally, you want to have Flicker, man, but if you
Yeah.
get kicked by Cho, I mean, this depends on how confident Izanami is. If he's holding up that brilliance and does it in time, Cho's going to be basically useless. If you want an extra level of security, better to have the Purify.
I'm wondering if Homeboys may be like hiding out the flexibility for the Roger jungle.
There is a possibility. Think about it. If push comes to shove, this 2 final picks is gonna allow Homeboys a little bit more room to actually adapt, right? It's kind of similar to how why they suddenly decided to pick the Kaja in the first game. So this game, RGMY, they bring in the Moskov. First appearance so far, as well as the Arlet. Nothing super crazy.
Okay, I was going to disagree. I was going to disagree with you under the assumption that Roger goes into the gold lane. But now, with that final pick, they can definitely do it. They can definitely throw it in towards that jungle position as well. And after that, get a better matchup in the gold lane. Maybe even a Brody. You know, the good old classics to fight off against this Moskov. I think the only thing that Moskov has in this matchup against the Roger is every single time he tries to go for an all-in, you can just, spear him away, dash backwards. You have a lot of counterplay in the lane itself as long as you minimize your trades and eventually outscale the Roger overall.
Is Melissa good here? No, right?
What?
Melissa's not. Okay.
It is the Roger jungle, but they're going to combine it with a marksman in the gold lane as well. So much scaling for the Homeboys.
What did I tell you, boys? This is going to be very interesting. I love the way the Homeboys are drafting here. It really seems like they've kind of gotten the entire hero pool down, but let's break it down one more time. RSG, their objective naturally is going to look to scale for the later stages of the game. I don't think they're going to have as much priority as they would like to, but if Stone can make an opportunity, by all means, go for it. Homeboys, EXP, it's about smothering. Everywhere else, and especially for Chibi, he cannot afford to go down. These neutral takes will be difficult, so he's got to work very closely with Udil to make an opening.
Well, drafts are set, heading into us game number 2. This is going to be the fight for survival, fight for the title, fight for the smack talk. This is game 2 of Homeboys versus RSGMY.
RSG currently 1 game down with a dominating execution by the Homeboys in game number 1. This is now your chance to show that that was simply a fluke, and a chance for the Homeboys to show that they are back in championship competing fashion.
Let's see how long it's going to take for that first blood to actually go through. I'm expecting Homeboys to play a little more passively until level 4. For the meantime, at least for RSGMY, this early game should go without a hitch unless Loliels somehow is able to give a free kill to the Homeboys.
Huh, interesting enough. You know, Zorn actually opened up, instead of trying to harass the jungler, he's opted to actually make sure and BBC nets that he's going to be able to have a decent lane here. Chibi already level 3, starting to get a little bit of harassments on Izanami again. You know, game 1, Chibi did exactly this against Izanami. He's going to try again to try and chip away Izanami, but this is a Lunox we're talking about. He's got sustains here.
Yep. Especially now that Lunox has been adjusted so that the conversion between her magic penetration and spell vamp is 100% between darkening and brilliance.
Yeah.
She's gonna be able to take advantage of that a lot more towards that mid to late game. I do like the rotation of Zorn choosing to go for the gold lane instead of jungle, because if you're gonna compete harassing a Fredrin and a Moskov, there's almost no question.
Yeah, and more importantly so, like Loliels has control over this lane, right? Nets is minimizing his trades overall against Loliels. Look at Loliels. I mean, he's opted to go for weakness finder. This is how confident he is in this matchup, right? So generally, as long as Nets doesn't die, if Loliels doesn't die, things should go well. And I think Zorn covering that top side of the map is good, but he also needs to make sure that he's at the same time covering Chibi, right? So whenever you see Chibi on one side of the map, expect Zorn to be alongside him, unless they're looking for level 4 like right now.
Yep, speaking of level 4s here, top side, they are doing a fantastic job with lane control, right? It's trading 50-50, making sure the creep waves are in the middle. But in turtle fight is going to be the priority. One good thing about this is that if Moskov has an ultimate, he can join the fight. However, now starting off, Black Dragon comes in, Sabat gets dragged all the way with the Arlon final snatch. He is going to get out, but nope. The Storm will get the kill instead. Zorn not able to retaliate against this, and RSGMY, they are going to continue for more. Chibi needs to get out of safety, but Zorn with the kick right at the edge. He survives and takes Storm down with him. He trades 1-for-1, salvages the team fight for Homeboys.
That's actually pretty good. Oh,
my God, Nets! Why? What are you doing? He's going to try to kill Loliels. The confidence. Again, Nets My God, we've seen this once, and he's gonna try to replicate it again.
Oh my goodness! If Loliels just used if he just used his Purify to dodge the CC coming in from Nets, he 100% wins that. But again, there are more pressing matters at hand.
Okay, Izanami, he is gonna take a little bit damage here. He does have the brilliant. Okay, he's fine. He's fine. He's fine.
He's gonna be okay. He's gonna be okay. Now, pull back a couple of seconds ago where we did see. Wait a minute, Vinogo.
Okay, Sword.
He's
Going for the kick. Vinogo getting chased down as well. Here comes Moskov. He's gonna try and join the fight. Lolios comes in as well. They do get Zorn in, but Lolios is only level 5. Oh, okay. The snipe. Not connecting with Vinogo, but RSGMY, they seems like they have bounced back.
Nicely done.
A good disengage coming in here from RSGMY, understanding that they're going to be a little bit tankier with Vinogo on this Brethren, especially with Concussive Blast as well. And Loliel can start to make a global presence here with that Sphere of Destruction. So it means that RSGMY do have ways to make sure that they always have that numbers advantage.
Is he going to stick in lane here? Yeah, he's definitely going to stick in lane here. Nets could potentially try and force something out of Loliels, but at the same time, right? We've got to watch it on the bottom side of the map. Because unfortunately for Rippo and as well as Stoem, earlier, a missed opportunity for a double kill, especially whiffing the Petrify because of that final slash. They got to make sure that it's on point. Oh boy.
Okay, Black Dragon forced out the bottom lane as well. He is going to try and disengage. Homeboy's not going to be able to get a kill. And this is actually pretty good, considering that they have beaten out Udil's out relatively early, but 10 seconds left before the turtle. Rippo's got to go back, but at the same time, again, RGMY still in an advantage. As long as, I guess, Lolios is playing on the other side of the map, he is going to get scaled up.
Let's find out how scaled up he's going to get.
Okay. Whoa. Nice Purify, but Nets is looking for the kill. He can. Oh boy, what a solo kill from Nets. It's not over. Now Zorn is going to get picked apart in the bottom fight as well. Homeboys, they have to back off. They've lost Zorn, and now Chibi, he needs to back out. And Homeboys, they will settle with Zorn as well as Lolios for now. But Turtle still stands. Here comes the Echo coming in. It connects on tree. Subpipe still trying to set things up for Chibi. He is going to go for the snipe here. Storm dropping down very low, but the retreat from Vinogo is going to be the ones in the hands of RGMY.
RSG definitely putting up much more of a fight here now that they have solid team fight engagement and actual damage from Izanami as well as Rippo. So Homeboys can no longer just depend on Subba just zoning out RSG for oh wow.
Okay, taking a little bit of damage. Zorn making an attempt. What are you thinking? Abrasives are whiffing! Vinogo! Right at the edge! He did not connect on Zorn!
So close yet so far. Good play coming in from Zorn with a flicker way of the dragon to ensure that he gets the kill on Izanami, knowing that his Purify is down. This is what I'm talking about, right? As good as Izanami is, he can't always have his cooldowns off, his abilities up off of cooldown. And more importantly, that Purify, as much as you would like it to be a play. Oh, wow!
Okay, final stash, catching Udil, but where's the follow-up? Spear comes in, and Lolio, bang! Snipes him off, and now Chibi is going to be mowed down as well. They called him Vinogo to taunt him up. Lolio gets a double kill, and Homeboys, they look to be the ones in scrambling. Repo gonna connect on Zorn, and they get another one. RSGMY is back in form. They're back in shape, and they are here to dominate.
Oh my goodness, Loliels. What a play.
Oh my god, the final slash comes in. Sapa tries to go for the Daytona. Welcome. Misses the mark. He's trying to get in here. Can he survive? No, he will not. Storm on fire.
Homeboys, they gotta relax. They can't be staggering these kills any longer. They've already given a 2.5k lead to RSGMY, and if we learned anything from that previous game, RSG were making the smarter choices. They just didn't have the tempo. Now, they've got the tempo, and I think Homeboys, they need to respect that, especially when you don't have the resources.
Oh no, Nets, he needs to get out with the Entropy. He's gonna be fine. He's gonna try and chip away at Storm. He needs to get out, and fortunate for them, he is gonna be A-OK. Homeboys needs to buy a little bit more time. They've got 2 marksmen, and in this case, RGMY is just taking advantage of that.
Yep, I think it's a great idea here, and RSG doing a great job as well. Honestly, after all this time, I've actually forgotten that Storm was the original Arlet roam here last season. So Zorn could be in trouble.
He's gonna back out. They force out Black Dragon on towards Yu Jong. He's gonna get sniped pretty low. Repo forced to disengage, and while this is happening, top side, Lolio's getting so much value. in terms of farm?
Because Yusong gets chunked out, they lose a bot tier 1 as a trade. That probably shouldn't have been the case. Had Rippo just stayed alive a little bit longer, Vinolo could have actually supported him with Stoem.
Oh, Stoem looking for the fight.
Oh.
Slash comes in, the spear already connected, and Loleo comes in, he catches on Suppad, but they need to catch on someone as well because the rest of RG, they're focusing on Nets, but they know they do not get the kill. Zord saves the day, he catches Loleo's, Nets will survive, but Zord, he needs to get out and he won't get out. Oh my god.
Homeboys instantly biting back, punishing RSGMY for their over-aggression, and although they were targeting the correct person, they didn't have enough resources. Zorn doing an excellent job of making sure that Nets could just keep outputting his damage.
Unfortunate. Unfortunate indeed. That was such a good idea by RSGMY, right? And I think that Lolio's kind of tunnel visioned on Suppad a little too much, but once that flicker came out of Suppad, so he had already bought so much time. Lolios is unable to join the fight, and then by the time he wants to join the fight, it dashes into that direction. It's too late. Homeboys have disengaged, and Suppad's too far to chase down.
Oh boy, what a difficult game here. What a game we've got. Like RSGMY, they're not out yet. It seems like it's a little wake-up call. Game 2, and they're back in action. And based on the items here, Divine Glaive up on Izanami. That's pretty big, but again, is he gonna go for the Blood Wings?
I think it wouldn't be a bad choice here overall. A little bit more survivability since you're not always going to be able to rely on that brilliance. Looking at the itemization as well, looks like Chibi going for the Thunderbelt build on that Roger, so not full out damage since he knows that he already has Nets to rely on for scaling.
Yeah, I think he just needs the extra bit of HP, extra bit of HP and cooldowns to make sure that he has some form of counterplay specifically against either Loliels or Izanami, right? He wants to chase down his targets, but at the same time, if he goes for the traditional build, he won't be able to take as much damage in comparison. Let's see how this Lord fight goes, right? If this ult hits,
oh, the spear comes in, it does connect. They do pop the Echo, they need Lolios in. They force the Black Dragon in to try and secure Loleo, but he doesn't teleport forward. Repo, he gets the Petrify, but he's gonna get come down. And now the Lord is coming in. Lord kicks his way through, but the Lord still standing down to his final HP. Izanami steals it away. Zord now getting caught up by Vinoco. Oh boys, they need to get out. They're getting chunked away. They've lost one member. They lose Repo for Suppad. And this is a close battle, but RSGMY seems to be the ones showing dominance in this fight.
Really, really nicely done. I can't believe GB actually went in with the Lycan Pounce onto Rippo of all people, guaranteeing that he was going to die, but Rippo, smartly enough, Furious dives backwards, uses the Petrify to try and guarantee the knockup, but Chibi able to get out of the way, allowing Lolios to push him even further from the Lord Pit. I think this is where it becomes. Oh no!
Oh no! He went. Okay. Oh, that was a sick spear. Good job, production. That was a very, very sick play.
Yeah, but Leo seems very comfortable on this hero overall. That Moskov, a pocket pick for a very long time. RSG slowly expanding their influence across the map here, gaining a lot more control thanks to some very smart decision making.
I don't know about you, but Loleo has been hitting some really, really sick outs so far, and it's not exactly the easiest thing to shoot just because of the fact that he has to travel so far across the map.
Maybe Loleo should consider picking up Novaria Gold Lane or something, right? If he's going to be landing all of these shots, bro. I mean, look at him. He's huge. He's level 13 already. He's going to be given over the orange buff as well. It's coming to a point where the gold lead doesn't really matter yet, right? But with a Malefic Roar, now he's going to be able to cut through some of the thicker targets.
They really need someone to be able to find this Moskov in the backline. They definitely have more than enough damage, like Chibi and Udil just needs to find that one skill snipe, and then Lolil is just deleted from existence. However, because Suppad is not tanky enough anymore to actually hold up the front line against RSG, it becomes a lot more difficult for Homeboys to actually try and threaten the DPS, especially when they also have the Black Dragon to contend with.
Oh boy, now Final Slash forces the Purify coming from Storm. He is going to be flickering out as well. The Echo comes in, but Homeboys, they lose a tier 2 up top. Lolios gets hit for absolutely free. Homeboys seems to be at a loss on what they need to do. Do they focus on Lolios or do they focus on their objectives? Because as of yet, RSGMY seems to be taking an inch from every sides of the table because of this macro play from Leos.
I think Homeboys, they just play for objectives, right? They sacrifice whatever they need to sacrifice. They need to ensure that an inhibitor doesn't fall, but they need to be ready for the upcoming Lord fight. Nets is in a really good position. Now that he has the Blood Wings in hand, he should be able to survive a little bit longer in these upcoming fights. But the real question is where Loliels is going to be coming from, right? If he's able to land that all and teleport behind and find a good target like Nets or maybe even Udil, this game might finish before it even starts.
Yeah, at the same time, forcing Nets to get the Winds of Nature is kind of counterproductive for the hero itself. But again, against Lolios, pretty much you don't really have much of a choice, right?
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do here, unless you're like super confident and Zorn is gonna be able to find the Moskov in every single fight. And I feel like Loliel has been positioning very well here so far. The Lord gonna be up once again. RSG still a 2k net worth lead, which at this stage of the game actually isn't all that much. But they're actually gonna try and blitz it here.
Yep, Lord gonna be reset here. They force the Black Dragon. The spear misses. This is huge for Homeboys. They are gonna try and dive on the repo as well. They do get the kill on him. They get him off, but Storm, he fights Nets. He's gone. They've lost the damage, but at the same time, Loleo still somehow makes it into the fight. And they are gonna wipe Homeboys. They get the Lord and the Sword. Now forced to run away. It's only Udil and Zorn. Can they stop RSGMY? I highly doubt so here. 20 seconds on the sidelines. The inhibitor is going to be exposed for this. RSGMY is going to try and mow it down as well. They need to clear the siege towers. They cannot. Look at the attack speed for Loliels. They've got the inhibitor. They finally cleared the minutes. It looks like they want to go for the GG push. Zorn going to get caught out. They take a jab at it. They kill him off. Nets just spawning by. But Loliels focusing on the crystal. It is still survive. Stove, it won't be resetted, but again, Udil is going to be point of interest. They use Udil as bait, and they won't keep the crystal alive for now. But the Lord getting mowed down very quickly. Homeboys still holds on. Another push comes in, RSGMY. Looking for the push, Lolios with the attack speed. Nobody's attacking him at all. They're letting him free hit. And RSGMY, finally, do they continue? I think they do. It seems like they will try this again. GB getting mowed down. Okay, all the inhibitors fallen. Only the top one remains, and RSGMY finally stops their aggression.
Oh my god, RSG just could have ended the game. They could have just ended the game if they wanted to, right? Right there and then. But they didn't want to. For some reason, they hesitated on that call. I don't know why everyone decided to go tunnel vision around their opponents. Just hit the crystal. It's not too difficult.
I think Udil is just too big of a bait to pass out.
No. Even if you dedicate one person to Udil, you don't even care about killing him. You just want to block the shot so he doesn't, so that he doesn't affect the wave. You just need one minion, and then you can just crush that crystal. And let's not forget, Lolios is full build, so there's no excuse for him to be chasing. He should be hitting that crystal no matter what before Nets even responds.
Yeah, honestly, they had more than enough time to actually finish that off there. So RSGMY definitely passed up on a good opportunity there, but they are still very much in the driver's seat right now, and I'm not too sure if Homeboys has what it takes to actually compete against them here. This double marksman comp proving to be a bit of an issue in these direct teamfight situations because they don't have enough front line to actually keep them alive.
I think Zorn is just not tanky enough, right? Because of the item changes. He didn't exactly gotten the growth rate defense buff.
No, it's not about how much damage he takes, right? He just needs to find a good kick.
Okay.
And that's basically impossible to deal with Izanami having like two forms, two ways to actually dodge a kick, whether it be the Purify or whether the Brilliance. Loliels also has a Purify, but he never shows up to the fight first, right? So who do you really want to kick? You kick Rippo, it feels like you're wasting it, because then if you're kicking it back in your team, Rippo could potentially turn this around. You kick Storm, that could be another play being done by RSGMY with a Flicker Final Slash. And Vinogo, it doesn't feel valuable until you're at the Lord.
Oh no, the Steam, he finds Udil, he tries to make a jab at it as well. Black Dragon comes in inverse fight coming in from RSGMY. Homeboys, they're taking it in the wrong direction here. Serpent forced to run away, but Loliels, he's gonna try and mow down Serpent, but the Purify, the dodge that Daytona's welcome. Serpent is gonna try and buy time, but the rest of RSGMY will gobble down GB. Serpent, he won't be able to get out to safety.
No!
As the bottom lane.
Wait,
what?
He canceled it. He doesn't know.
Okay.
He doesn't know.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Okay, Zorn, they are going to be able to back off for now. RSGMY 5-man alive. They are going to try and go for the GG push once again. Another minion comes in. They find Nets. He gets out with entropy. But he does have the immortality. He's going to try and buy time for the team. They are going to try and shove the wave here. But Sapat, he's not going to be able to survive. He is going to fall. RSGMY takes the final inhibitor away. Nets! You absolute monster! What the hell? Triple kill for Nets! Maniac for him! Nets! That should not be possible! He made the impossible possible! Nets, you wonder boy! An absolute chat! What a play! Nets!
They just lined up perfectly. They all stood in one straight line and they said, hey, we got nothing. You got anything in your back pocket, Nets? And Nets said, yes, I do, in a matter of fact. Do not disrespect him.
The remaining members of RSG just vaporized in an instant, not respecting the homeboys. They are still in the danger zone. They have to be careful. RSG still has 4 towers standing. This will be a lord for them. Ooh, an attempted snipe, but not successful. The game continues and homeboys keeps themselves in competition.
I mean, homeboys, if they get one more fight like that, all right, before I even go into theoreticals here, let's just look at the resources available, right? I'm seeing Purifies come up for both Izanami as well as Lolios. I'm seeing a Flicker in 3 seconds coming up for Stoem, and now they just have to play high ground defense and pray to God that homeboys disrespects the space.
You know, from that fight itself, look at Nets' damaged out ranking right now. 89,000 with that's a solo maniac. That was crazy coming from him. However, again, they keep things alive. Rod pushing off forward here. This might be their opportunity to make a comeback because RSGMY, they could have won this, but homeboys finds a way to inch back. Now with the magic potion coming in, Nets looking to close up and even the score here. Chibi going for the range form. Conceal plays coming from RSGMY. They are looking for the final slash. Echo comes in, scouts out them as well, but Sapat is going to force the Daytona as well. He's going to get chased. Sapat needs to get out. Now, Repo looking for the punish onto his homeboys. They're all clumped up, all 3 of them, and they pick them all part by part. Nets first to fall. No comeback for homeboys as RSGMY is going to mow them down. Lolios finds another one. A double kill for them. And RSGMY quickly flips the script.
Oh, we have a game on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. Another 30 seconds before Nets is able to return, and Lolil is still up and healthy. Can homeboys hold on in time? I don't know if they can.
They're going to have to try something, right? Zorn, he's probably going to try and proxy that wave. RSGMY looking to protect it and looking to close this out. The game of mechanics finally coming to an end.
It might be over. They need to buy time. Nets 10 seconds left on the sideline so far. Zorn still pulling the creep waves available.
Yes,
so they're pulling the minions. Somebody's going to control his life.
2 seconds.
Nets, 2 seconds left. They need Nets. They've lost all. It's up to Nets now. Last man standing. Can he clear the minions? He pops his entropy. He gets back. It's done. It's done. It's over. RSGMY finally comes back and closes out the game. We have a game. The full game 3. RSGMY is not out yet.
We knew this was going to be the highlight match of our Suru Saturdays, and once again our expectations are blown out of the water. So close, so close from both these teams multiple times. The comeback was almost there, but RSGMY denying it right at the very end. We have a series on our hands.
Oh boy, that game really boiled down to who can outplay your opponents, man. That final 2 fights, well, actually just the final fight where the Lord was pushing into RSG's side. Well done to Vignogo and as well as Rippo. They finally get their moment in their game where it's just like, yeah, that moment, that fight was won because of me.
But at the same time here, if they did not catch Nets in that timing, that would have been disastrous for them because Nets pulled one of the biggest, insane plays I've ever seen. Technically, it shouldn't be possible, but Nets made it work. Unfortunately, it's just really, really sad that homeboys wasn't able to close out the game, because if that was possible, he would have been a legendary play right there.
I mean, that was... there's so many things that could have gone right and so many things that could have gone wrong, right? But at the end of the day, it really just boils down to who has the hardest scaling hero and how do you actually find an opportunity and create space for them, right? A lot of it just came down to, can you burn their battle spells? And when you have some players like a Moscow player like Loliels, it's hard to say no. If you're not going to create that space, I'll do it myself.
You know, Loliels has been playing the longest of time in the season in MPL, right? He's been playing so many seasons thus far. We've seen him in his highs and we've seen him in the lows. And just when you think he does not have anything else, he pulls off a Moskov that is so sick to a point that nobody can deal with it. It's crazy. It's rare to see Loliel performing at this level, and it seems like he's still got it. He's really just still got it.
He's always had that potential. He's just had to be able to find the space necessary to actually demonstrate it. And I think this game was an excellent example of that. 4,000 damage per minute. We see the potential of these late game auto attack marksmen. You usually count them out, but when they're given that space, when they're able to show what they've got, man, it is scary.
It really is. It really, really is. I think throughout this match, if we take away the blade, sorry, not the Blade of Despair, but the Spear, if you took it away, would that have changed much? And I'm trying to think a couple of situations. The one big one that comes to mind is Homeboy's biggest blunder where they overextend and get cut off through the river, splitting the fight into 3 different places. Not exactly what the Homeboys wanted, but that's still built up for an incredible base defense.
The thing is, when you play a draft that has the double marksman, you really need to have enough tools to protect them. When you add on the Novaria on top of that, boy, you gotta make sure your front line is unbreakable. And in this case, Sabat was definitely not unbreakable. He was getting whittled down a lot by the true damage from Izanami, by the scaling from Loliel. And look at Stone's score as well. Like, it's been a long time since he's gotten a chance to play his signature Arlet in the roam position, but when he does, wow.
You know, let's talk a little bit more on rivalry here, because Storm was completely disrespected and humiliated in game 1 by Zorn. And this time, he pays back with Zorn with a 0-5 on this show. This is, you know, I would say a big grudge match between both of the most spiciest team here in MPL.
I mean, so far the mechanics are looking clean, and that's all I can hope for. At this point, it comes down to how good your decisions are going to be and how the coaches are going to arm their players. Because right now, I think that Homeboys are considering that we need to get rid of Arla. Like, Storm on this Arlet is actually kind of disgusting.
Yeah, it really is. The way he's able to find these final slashes. Well, the first couple were a little bit questionable at times. Once he got online, it was like watching the debut of Storm all over again, back when he was playing alongside Demon Kite. So RSG demonstrating their full capabilities here, and despite the score, like the kill score being overwhelmingly in their favor, it was actually the Homeboys that did more damage overall.
Nets especially. With the changes to, with the changes to to the Holy Crystal, and as well as the Blood Wings, some crazy stuff can happen. I swear to God. 3 people melted in an instant. You blink, they're gone.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? We've always talked about how Holy Crystal is a great a way to actually synergize with Bloodwings back in the day, because it provides so much magic power, it provides so much technical shields. But when you make Bloodwings cheaper, it makes him into a stage where he's just unkillable at one point. But of course, once he chain stun, there's nothing much Nuts can do. And again, I feel like Nets played a very, very good game because of the fact that Loliels had the 1-up, because of the fact that he is going to be always later than Loliels. And if he tries to mirror Loliels in this matchup, Homeboys has no choice but to stall for Nets to get into teamfights. And most of these times, when he gets there, Homeboys has already lost a majority of their health because of the combos from Storm, because of his Izanami, because of Repo. And to top it off, Binogo is in a situation where it delays their retreat most of the times.
I think the hardest part about this, right, is like, what is the most ideal situation for the Homeboys? We saw Zorn and Sapat trying to just break Purifies and break resources from Izanami specifically, and sometimes even Loliels when he decides to go a little too out of pocket here and really trying to make the play. Once those Purifies are gone, Nets has an opportunity, but they can't play the traditional front to back. Because as the front line starts collapsing into the back line and they have to start peeling away, Nets is actually getting chipped by Loliels' pierce damage, right? And it technically is extending the range of Loliels' overall auto attack damage. So I think Homeboys, they wanted to find an angle in which Nets could actually find a left flank, maybe even a right flank, on towards RSG's side and catch Izanami, arguably Loliel's at this point of time, to make the difference.
I think some of those later game fights, Homeboys definitely needed to slow it down somewhat because RSG has so many ways of counter-engaging and diving. If they start the fight, then Rippo jumps in, Loliel jumps in, then they disrupt the backline. If Homeboys are the ones starting the fight, they just rely on Storm having a good final slash timing and use Izanami with that brilliance to buy space, especially now that it got the 30% movement speed increase. It's a lot easier for Izanami to actually leave these fights as well. And Vinogo, I think, while he definitely didn't get much of a chance to shine here, he did get one of the highest damage taken overall. And all he really needs is to survive long enough for Loliel to whittle down Homeboys, which is not difficult when they're mostly squishy heroes.
Let's talk a little bit more on the win conditions on how to enable this Roger, right? Because Homeboys, technically, they have a draft that is extremely difficult to pull off, even though, like, quote-unquote, oh, Chode set up, bada-bang, bada-bing, bada-boom, someone's gonna die. But if you think about this, right, they don't really have the damage output to allow Chibi to kind of go in and get those finishers to extend those kills. And Novaria isn't exactly the greatest to kind of start things off for this fight. Yes, it's great for poking, but aside from that, they need somebody to chip away and chunk away their HP to allow Chibi to do that. But despite all that, Homeboy still managed to drag this game long enough. And I feel like draft, a little bit of issue, but still, they played a very, very good game.
I don't think the draft had an issue. I think they had a game plan in mind. They wanted to play for the early stages. They want Chibi to snowball out of control and get Nets as the rich guy and as well as the carry, being the big number one here. Sandbag going over to Subot and finally Vinogo being the best wingman. The big issue was how much Vinogo was able to kind of sandbag and mirror Chibi throughout this match by himself without the help of Storm, right? So it's like, oh, you go for the big kick and now everybody else starts to collapse in. Storm is able to actually buy time for the retreat to happen, and that's why we're seeing, right, in the earlier stages of the game, between minute 0 to minute 5, that's where we saw that first initial interaction. By minute 9 is when we saw Vinogo actually walk away after a turtle fight at 1 HP with the help of Loliel's as well as Storm to keep Chibi back. Had that kill gone over to Chibi, this might have been a very different game. For the majority of it, right, when we're comparing the two, RSG is going to be blue, Homeboys is going to be red. RSG actually had quite a lot of control from 7 minutes onward, right? At 14 minutes, I mean, I was hoping that the game probably should have ended by 15 to 16, but they kind of let go of that, and that's where you see the decline.
Yeah, that's where the risk came in, and then at that 18-minute mark, into the 19th minute when they tried to push in once again, and then Nets got the 3-man vaporize. Homeboys regained control of the gold lead, where at that point I feel like they definitely should have played a little bit slower when they were pushing into the base. Subot was able to force out a Purify, and then Homeboys tried to follow it up desperately because they knew he was basically dead in the base. But I think they should have sacrificed him to maintain their control over the map.
But one of the difficult ones here is that based on this game, it felt like it came down to just small little mistakes, right? It's not exactly mistakes, but it's more like opportunities that were presented themselves that is so difficult to pull off. And Homeboys, when they make this kind of mistakes, RSG might just pretty much capitalize on that. And as of yet, this is pretty much the highlights that we did see as well, where you can see a lot of focus on towards Nets here. As long as Nets survives, there's hope for Homeboys. And if Nets gets taken out, RGMY pretty much loses out most of the team fights. And you can see even here as well, like as long as Loliel, as long as the marksmen come online, they're pretty much gonna destroy everyone.
I mean, the common denominator amongst all of this is just lack of awareness, right? For some of the players, a lot of these players kind of tunnel vision a little bit too hard, and I think Storm in particular, once he kind of like activated, once he stopped deciding, you know what, I'm a tunnel vision, no, I just need to look at the bigger picture, that's when you saw him find these incredible angles, right? To force Homeboys in these awkward spots. Now Nets, let's not forget, he is a disgusting player. He finds a solo kill on Lolios, he vaporizes 3, right? But this is the fight that changed it all. Nets dies early, he loses his Purify, he also loses his, if I remember correctly, his immortality at the same time. So he had to switch on over to the Winds of Nature. Regardless, too many resources lost, not enough profit gained.
Yeah, and speaking of the fight here, I feel like this is a very, very intense moment coming from both sides. Like, first game, it feels like RSGMY did not even wake up. It feels like it's completely bullied, a completely one-sided slap coming from Homeboys. And for them to make a response after that defeat, that humiliation from game 1, I want to see how Game 3 is, because whoever wins the series is got to have the biggest pride of just smack talking the other team right now.
They really will have big bragging rights once we're able to crown a victor here. But Game 3 is going to be a real test of wits now, because like you mentioned already, Game 1, one-sided massacre. I think all of us thought that, oh, Homeboys, they're a shoo-in to win Game 2 after that. But RSG brings out the pocket picks, the heroes that they only bring out when it's desperate times. The Moskov, the Lunox, Rippo on his signature Yuzong as well. And it worked out very well, though it was still very, very close in the end because of some mistaken calls here and there. So it's very difficult to predict now what's going to happen.
I think I want to call out Shamilo here, because earlier just now we had a conversation behind the caster's breaking room. Lafel did mention if Milo calls out a 2-0, which he expected, one of these teams is going to 2-0. Not going to say who. It doesn't usually happen. And guess what? It did not happen. So I'm going to call Shamilo. Maybe. Maybe. It's not Sif and Mars. It's Milo.
No,
not Sif and Mars.
No, Sif and Mars, they just need to exist. Milo has to say something about it. There's a very big difference between the two.
Different trigger conditions.
Yeah, man. Look, I'm not one to talk about curses and everything, but I think that in this upcoming game, it really just boiled down to a test of mechanics between both of these teams, right? I do think that RSG is slightly weaker in terms of the decisions being made overall. Again, an endgame scenario, the anti-synergy that happened in the early game between Stoem and as well as Rippo, that needs to be cleaned up, because this game could have ended so much sooner, or at the very least had a much smoother process towards the mid game, which I think is their weakest point so far. Early, it seems like they have a rough idea of what they want to do. Late, they're a little bit more creative for sure, but mid game where there is a little bit of structure, when some teams have more tempo, or especially when they have a lead against the others, that's where they get really, really shaky.
Okay, so let me phrase this. What you're saying is that instead of just focusing on what needs to be done, they try to gobble everything, and all this greed is what's the reason why RSG MY is not being able to close out the game.
Not at all. It's understanding what the rule book is and making sure that you follow the steps in the structure. If you want to go outside of the structure, follow the basics, fall back to your fundamentals, look for trades on the opposite side of the map. You can't just keep throwing yourself head forward saying, I can out-mechanic this, because that can only get you so far.
Yeah, I agree here, because even in the end here, despite RSG MY winning out most of the fights and that whole game, it didn't really feel like their team fights had the most solid structure overall. They just happened to have more damage. They were able to catch out people with individual player skills rather than like true coordination like what we saw from Homeboys in game number 1. So that's still a flaw that needs to be addressed before RSG can really consider themselves top class here.
Well. Speaking of top class, the decider match, we are going to hit into the drafts here right now. Game number 3 to find out who's going to win, but support from Kada. Homeboys 2-0. He actually X'd out He actually X'd out the scene.
Hey, that's how we know that he's a real one. He was a real one. It's like, no, totally did it. Totally still supporting the Homeboys, just being realistic.
I liked how he improvised.
It's the same curse as Shamilo.
Guess what? They change it to a best of 5, and then you just see him like, oh man, I gotta do 2-2. All right, now we're seeing the same exact bans coming up from both sides. I don't think they're changing their plans whatsoever. Homeboys, they want to adjust their composition a little bit more, but I think they need to consider taking away the Arlet, or at the very least, getting rid of the Yuzong from the side of RSG. It's like, okay.
We saw that thumbs up from Rippo real quick there. He knows. It gained some respect. They'll lock in the Fredrin. It worked out for them in game number 2, so why not go for it again?
You know, he's had a lot of success with Yuzong even prior to this patch as well. Like, even the previous season when he was playing with Demon Card as well, his Yuzong was a force to be reckoned with. So I like how Homeboys is finally respecting it here. Hey, Rippo, play something else. Your CC wasn't the greatest in the previous game 1. Game 2, your Yuzong was kind of annoying. Now, play something else. But now that we've mentioned as well, I think they are opening up the... No, they're not opening up the Nolan. They're actually securing the Harry for Homeboys. Okay.
I mean, RSG got rid of it the last time. Now they're going to be locking in the Harith and as well as the Barats here. Let's see how RSG is going to respond, because I think they have a sneaking suspicion that, unfortunately, I do not think that Lolios actually wants to pick up the Roger. I think he feels a little uncomfortable on it, and I think Homeboys has kind of caught onto the suspicion. If not, we'll see it right here, right? We should technically see the Roger get locked in, and then maybe have some, an early... Oh, do I want to say Lunox again for the side of Izanami?
Actually, I like it. Just because of how he's been able to just chunk down Sapat in a majority of fight, right? Even without Lolios, Izanami has been annoying to work with, so him going for the Lunox isn't exactly that bad, but I want to see the Moskov again, to be honest. I really want to see... Oh, wait a minute. They switched things up. They picked the Kaja this time. Huh.
Interesting.
So no Arlon.
I think that this is a better option because RSG is setting up for Natan as well. Oh, did they kind of switch compositions here? All right. Let's see what the Homeboys are going to do, right? Because again, now Udil, the big question for him is whether or not he wants to actually pick up the Novario once more, or does he want to kind of change his prospects?
Depends on how they want to approach this. Because previously, the Novaria ended up costing them a little bit. Because while the goal of it was to peel, because there was this this Lunox to deal with, Sapat wouldn't survive long enough for that peel to actually come into effect. So now that they know they're playing against the Lunox again, it could be a bit risky. So they'll go for the Valentina instead to potentially steal away the Divine Judgment.
Yeah, they said Divine Judgment as well as Lunox, but no! I wanted to see the Moskov! Not happening. No more pocket picks, Homeboy says, and I thought Homeboys was very, very confident to try and just challenge RGMY, but after game number 2, this is them respecting. And I don't know, do they want to disrespect RGMY again? Seems like no, this game. But if they lose this matchup against RGMY, ooh, that's gotta hurt.
It will hurt here. I think Homeboys are positioning for Sapat to have a dominant lane. The question is, what exactly is that dominant lane going to look like, right? Are they going to throw him with Arlet and force RSG Repo to play more of a sandbag?
Does Divine Judgment go through Daytona's welcome?
Does Divine Judgment go through Daytona's welcome? Yes, it does.
I believe so.
It does. Because the suppression only happen. Well, I mean, yes, it's crowd, your protection from crowd control, yada 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 yada. But it's suppression. It kind of goes through it. Doesn't really matter unless we do see Barat actually get the animation off to eat the Kaja first before the Divine Judgment actually happens. So it's a very small window there. Hopefully it's going to be a good time, but let's see whether or not Sapat actually wants to play this Barat, or is he handing off the Barat over to Chibi? Ooh, good Natan ban. Good Natan ban.
They're denying things away from RSG, potentially forcing them to pick up that Roger in the gold lane. Or if Homeboys really want to challenge it again, they could lock in the Roger and deny it all away from Lolil.
Technically, they can though, because they're gonna have priority pick here for second phase. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just pick up the Roger for Chibi again.
I mean, it's a little uncomfortable for Chibi, I'm not going to lie. I do think that they should just double down on their plan of playing around Sapat specifically. And yeah, I think RSG is starting to catch on to this. They're banning out the Trizla. They need to make sure that there is some form of lane control in that EXP sector. I think Homeboys, if they want to pick up Roger, it's either Roger here or they go straight into Baxia, maybe? No, Baxia can't deal with the Lunox overall. Assassin-style junglers are also super difficult to play.
I think just force Chibi to play the Barats this game. Like, instead of giving him for his usual assassin playstyle here, just give him the Barats, force Sapat to play a Paquito or something. And in this case, even though Paquito isn't exactly the greatest deal with Lunox, but if Lunox gets chain CC, that's a one-shot combo on the Lunox.
I like the idea. I like the idea, but I think they should pick a support if that's the case. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. They go for the Edith. All right, that's a decent amount of damage. He's got sustainabilities as well. Harif does have, early game aggression, but late game wise, Edith does help out contribute in terms of the overall DPS. So this is okay-ish. They looks like they're not gonna go for a hard Roger pickup for Homeboys.
I feel like there's a possibility Homeboys is setting up for an assassin.
They could be, but let's see what RSG is going to kind of round out their comp, because at the end of the day, it's between Sapat and Chibi who have to decide who is going to have the more dominant matchup here. And I think Chibi, based on how Vinogo has been playing, is rather confident with any heroes, even in a losing matchup, because it doesn't feel like Vinogo is trying to press his lead into Homeboys' side just yet.
Is Fanny actually good this game?
I was thinking about it, but with the Divine Judgment around, it makes it a lot more difficult. I think if you're gonna go for that, Lancelot might be a little safer.
Oh yeah, I think I can go with the Lancelot pickup. But again, do you play this tank Lancelot or assassin Lancelot?
No reason to go tank Lancelot anymore.
50-50, why not both, right? You can go for hybrids.
Not these days, I think, especially with the nerfs to everything.
All right,
oh,
okay.
Okay.
And the persecuted.
All right. So following along again, Terrence, you actually had the line correct, except instead of locking in their jungler, all they had to do is lock in the support to see that final lineup before they make that decision at the end of the day. I like where both of these teams' head is at. So far, a couple of interactions and a couple of like key pain points for me as of right now is that Zorn needs to make something happen early on in the game. Whether it's in gold, whether it's in EXP, doesn't really matter, right? The fact that you have early CC in comparison to Storm, who kind of just gives vision and kind of sustains it, stays annoying until he hits level 4, that's the opening for Homeboys to make something happen. Because RSG, similar to the previous game, they're waiting to scale before something actually happens.
Well, a lot of what ifs. In this case, who is going to be the one that comes up on top? The winner gets the bragging rights. This is going to be Homeboys versus RSGMY to decide who takes the cake.
The rivalry continues as we return to the land of Dawn for the last time in this series. Only one of these two contenders will be able to emerge victorious with the bragging rights behind them. Who is it gonna be?
Let's find out here. This early game is gonna be really important for the Homeboys' side. And Vinogo, so far, forced to use his retribution early on against Zorn. This could be a potential invade here. If they can actually pick off Storm, that would be ideal, but that means Slipot has to give up that River Crab.
Oh, well, seems to me we do see double Purifies up on RSGMY, and if Udio gets to steal on a Divine Judgment, things are going to not be looking good with those Purifies, because once they get the lock on Izanami, he's done. There's no way he's going to survive. But at the same time, top side, trades here. Nets. Oh, what? Huh? Nets.
Unideal. Unideal. Fat-fingered it. Doesn't mean it matters.
Okay, Izanami getting a little bit hasty here. He's got the sustain from Brilliance, though. I like this combination. Both Izanami and Stowe has a lot of sustains in terms of spell bash.
Yep, and they're making full use of it here. Looking at the emblem setup, we can see movement speed coming in from Storm as well as Lille to rotate around the map. Otherwise, everything does seem to be pretty standard.
Is that the new KOF skin?
Yeah, that's
Terry Bogard. The one that you hated? Look at it. It's got so much muscles.
I don't know what you've been smoking to be saying that I hate Terry Bogard, but sure, I'll just roll with it for now. Suppot, on the other hand, I'm surprised that he did decide to actually opt in terms of his emblem setup to go for the Festival of Blood. I thought maybe this might be the matchup he could go for Master Assassin to try and pick off some of the key targets here, especially if he wants to just dominate this lane against
Repo getting almost killed off. What a punch from Suppot. And now RSGMY, they have to give away control as this turtle is going to be in the back of Homeboys. They need to get Repo back into action. And of course, Zorn now close to his 4. He is going to take a little damage. He tries to chain stun over Vinogo. It's going to be gobbled out. Chain stun all the way through. Vinogo cannot play this game. And now Stowe looking for the Divine Judgment plays, but it's a little bit too late. GB secures the turtle, and they want to go for more. But it seems that they will settle with just that.
Yeah, but this is so far so good for the Homeboys. This is exactly what I was talking about, right? Because again, Storm isn't really a hero until he hits level 4. In the meantime, Rippo getting chunked out like that really made the man advantage apparent.
This is much more akin to the Game 1 gameplay we saw from the Homeboys. They're putting on early pressure as soon as possible to make sure that they're able to maintain that goal lead and consistently grow it.
More importantly, they're investing their time into the EXP side of the map in comparison to the gold side, right? Liliels and as well as Nets, they're in this 1v1 for a very long time, but Suppot has a level lead as well as a gold lead off of Rippo, and he's calling Chibi to help him fight for these resources, to fight for the gold shield.
I think it's a good idea. We know that traditionally Hardif has always been the lane counter against Claude. It's what you pick if you want to win that 1v1. And now that he recently got buffed, he's going to feel even better. Therefore, Nets doesn't really need help in that lane. And if they're able to unlock Suppot as soon as possible, they just straight up win team fights.
Yeah, speaking of fights here, it seems like Suppot is very happy about how he's dominating lane. I'm surprised he didn't exactly go for the lane swap yet. But again, homeboys, they are still dominating here. They want to play this safe. They want to make sure that Storm doesn't get the free catch, I guess. But for now, RGMY, Storm not showing himself yet. They have a rough idea that there, but now Storm is going to reveal himself here. Udil needs to back out, and now the suppress comes in. Chibi goes in for the fight. They get the appraisal round to keep Repo out, and he's get out. No, he won't not. Nets gets the kill. Double kill for Nets. Storm slow to react, and he is going to be bowled down a little bit too much, and this middle turret is going to lose a full gold plating as Homeboys was able to get away with absolutely everything.
Lolios, he's going to hop on. Oh, he notices the Harith at the very least.
Okay.
Walking back into lane, so he doesn't take his BMI out. If he took that BMI, he dies instantly to Nets. Oh, we know Nets doesn't have the Xamon Force, but it was coming back up in a couple of seconds. Okay, regardless, Udil definitely could have pressed the advantage a little bit more, but now that he has the Brilliance, I think this is the time. He can start walking up a little bit more confidently.
Well, looks like he's gonna try as well, but Storm with the pull. He can't Thorn, but he still survives. Final Slash gets cancelled by Chibi. Or Udil in this regards, because as of yet, not going to be able to set up for the fight means Homeboys gets the full reset. Now they force the Brilliance out. Udil going to be backing out as well. Sabah from the back lines tries to go for a snipe. He needs to get out. Counter Brilliance comes in. He tries to take a jab. Gets stopped by Vinogo. He will fall. Turtle still survives. And Homeboys, they will come on top. Chibi will survive it all. It is gonna be the big bad dinosaur.
What slim margins both the Homeboys and RSG MY are playing on. That could have easily fallen into RSG MY's hands. Look at how low Udil and as well as Chibi. So many resources being expanded. I only just feel bad for Suppa because he could not move. If he was able to get the champion stance, heavy left hand, he might have been able to survive it, if not turn the tide of that fight.
He was waiting though. He really wanted to kill his army.
But his sacrifice definitely was worth it for the Homeboys here. Trading 2 for 4, very good in that situation, and giving even more space for Nets to start ballooning. There is a 4K net worth lead now in the side of the Homeboys, and this is definitely looking a lot closer to their performance in game number 1.
Yep. So far, how long can they maintain it, right? We're just waiting for the mistake to happen. Waiting for the tides to actually flip on the Homeboys' head. What's going to cause it?
Well, in this case, Chibi, now level 10, gonna try and take away this middle turret away. This is gonna be the biggest, most important turret for Homeboys if they want to go outscale this fight, because as of yet, it's so close yet so far. It's Storm looking for the concealed play. He drags Chibi across, and now Chibi needs to get out. He's able to sustain it all as well, and he's gonna be able to get out. It's so unlucky, and now Vinogo is gonna pay the price. Storm next to fall as Nets picks them apart. Oh my goodness. Storm, RSGMY, they're so unlucky.
I mean, unlucky is one thing. The fact that GB is 3-0-6 is also another. They probably should have considered that. They need to find a squishier member because GB is definitely ahead of the curve compared to the rest of his teammates.
If I do recall that, when the Divine Judgment on Chibi landed on the turret, the minions just crashed on the turret. So because of that, the turret did not hit Chibi at all.
And some good zoning from Homeboys as well meant that all of their DPS members were forced back and couldn't actually wail on the Barats. Instead, it was Vinogo who was left out in the lurch because the rest of his team were forced to retreat.
Well, speaking of which, Chibi, he will live to tell another day. And that's going to be the turtle secured for Chibi. RSGMY needs a bigger catch. In this case, Storm hasn't had the biggest success with those catches so far. Udil now does have a Divine Judgment on his Valentina though, huh? Interesting.
I mean, that's definitely the ultimate of choice to steal away here. Being able to get some catches freely alongside the Daytona's welcome going to be very handy overall. Homeboys doing a great job of maintaining their goal lead.
Well, Chibi now gonna try and pull Storm. Oh, decent damage. Divine Judgment comes in, tries to pull the turret. They shove him back in. That's gonna be the turret damage that he needed, and they do get the kill just at the right moment here. A little bit unlucky in the previous attempt, but this time, perfect execution by RSGMY. As they look for more Homeboys, doesn't want to give up aggro. They know Storm's got no Divine Judgment. They are going to try and capitalize on the mistake, but RGMY, they're playing as a united team for now.
But on the opposite side, we see that Homeboy still wanting to make sure, okay, you take Chibi, I'm going to take a trade, right? There's no neutral objective to fight for, so we might as well start taking away structures and really start dimming the map.
Yep. Unfortunately, GB definitely taunted a little bit too far and too close to home there, allowing for Storm to get that pull into the final slash. He was too confident that he'd be able to walk out even if he was pulled in like last time, but the conditions were very different.
If Storm knows what's up, he just needs to flicker forward. He's gonna try. Okay. You know, he second skill, he tried to bait a reaction, tried to force something. They know what's up, but purple buff now gonna be stolen. Oh boy, feels bad for the no-go.
It's not like he needed the purple buff. He just doesn't want to be 2 levels underneath Chibi. There's nothing much he can do about this at this point of time, considering how much of a lead Homeboys actually have, a 3-9 score on top of it all. But Sapat, it's time for him to actually starting to build up pressure. A slow push activated on the top side of that map will slowly start crashing in, and RSGMY have to respond and send a member up there.
Yeah, very, very big wave coming in as well. They're sending Lolios up top instead. And meanwhile, Homeboys gonna start things off with this Lord hit for now. Vinogo very close to review position. Sapat also setting up for the team, but it seems like it's pretty clear cut. This is going to be an easy Lord for Homeboys, and RGMY has no choice but to back out. They have to concede this.
Yep, no choice here. They're not in position to fight this. RSGMY basically have to play for this late game phase now. They gotta create space, they gotta make sure that Lolil gets farmed up, is able to hit that max level and max item cap before they can actually take fights against the Homeboys due to this big goal disadvantage that they have been able to build up.
Well, speaking of gold advantage right now, orange buff available for RGMY, but again, they're trying to bait reactions. Homeboys doesn't need to overcommit to this. Lord is going to be pushing from the top side though.
Ooh. They can only hold on for so long here, right? Boys, they're in an 8K. They have an 8K lead. Unless either Udil or Nets really drop the ball on this next upcoming fight, I don't see Homeboys really struggling too much for the time being. We'll probably only start seeing them start to struggle by 15 minutes. But the question is whether or not RSGMY actually makes it there. And let's not forget, Nets changing up his build a little bit more, going for the concentrated energy on his side to survive these fights a little bit longer.
I think it's a good item choice here. They already realize how scrappy team fights are against RSGMY in particular, so the concentrated energy is going to have a lot of value overall. I'm not too sure whether or not RSGMY has built anti-heal against Chibi and Sapat, so depending on whether or not that's the case, it becomes a little bit more valuable as well.
I think the biggest question for RGMY is that how do they deal with this tanky composition? Because, yeah, you talked about anti-heals here. Absolutely nothing. Wow, all right. This is a big problem for RGMY.
Is it though? Is it really? Who can sustain that much other than Zorn? Like hard sustain. Other than Zorn, Nets probably just doesn't want to get hit by specifically like Dominance Ice. But other than that, I don't think they really... Is there a good applicant for it? I think probably Lolios, who goes for a Sea Halberd at the very least, right?
Yeah. I think Lolios is in a situation where he needs his level 15, and on top of level 15, he needs his max item before he can actually dish out the necessary damage to actually chunk them all out, right? He's in a situation where, yeah, he's got the Blaze Duet, but he can't seem to join the team fights in time, and even if he does, he's too squishy. Like, Zor can just casually just chunk him down. We've got Chibi in his face just soaking up. It's like, hey, you know what? I don't care about this Claude at all. And if you've got a Paquito, if you stand too close, 2 punches and you might be dead.
Positioning going to be very crucial here for RSGMY. One good thing for them is that Storm just completed his fleeting time, so there will be more opportunities to maybe get a catch out with that Divine Judgment, but because they have to be so wary about the damage that's being output by the Homeboys, it's going to be very difficult for him to actually get that chance to jump in and pull someone out.
My god, I like how RGMY is just positioning right at the creep wave. They know for a fact that Homeboys is freezing the lane, and they're soaking somewhat at EXP. Now, Conceal Play comes in. Oh, he flickers forward for Nets. He gets out, and they know he's there. And now Homeboys, they are going to try and force a fight. Zorn looking to try and chip it away. GB goes for the Titoras Malcolm, misses the mark. Can they survive? Repo tries to salvage the day, but here it comes. The Divine Judgment. They pull Sapat. They lose Izanami. Lolios is down, but Homeboys somehow manages to scrap this fight. GB dropping down low here. He needs to get out, and he will get out to safety as Homeboys, they do get two despite the scrappy performance from RGMY. Now Udil showing the Man of Steel. He's going to try and trash talk his way out of this game, and he might be one step closer as they take 2 inhibitors away from RGMY.
A good attempt attempt by RSG to try and catch out the homeboys splitting up the wave. But they always got to be aware that taking these sort of risks can be very dangerous at this stage of the game. They're very far out in the map and they clearly don't have enough peel to actually escape if they were to get caught out in a bad situation. The dashing away was excellently timed by Nets, because if he got caught there, that would have been a completely different fight.
Yeah, I think, well, a lot of things could go wrong here. And I think that for RSGMY, they're coming to the point where it's not going to matter sooner rather than later. But I think homeboys have done a very good job at just denying them resources. Now it's all about this upcoming Lord, right? And homeboys know that we've hit the mark. This is on tempo, this is on time, and RSGMY have no real way to actually contest because so many of their battle spells, have already been utilized, right? So now it's a high ground defense, and homeboys, they can take their sweet, sweet time with this.
Lord gonna be claimed very easily by the homeboys, who have now increased their net worth lead to 10,000 here. We are right before the 15-minute mark, and there's only one inhibitor standing for the side of RSGMY. Will this be the chance that homeboys has been looking for to finally claim their victory?
Oh, speaking of victory here, with the Lord crashing in, Repo starting this off, catches Chibi with the trunket from Chibi to buy time. Leo's getting completely dived on, executed, blazing to it. It says bye-bye as homeboys sends them back to the base, but no goal, forced to back off. Crystal's down. Homeboys takes the 2-1. Homeboys are your winners for this match.
The defending champions showing that they are still champion worthy. And the rivalry is settled in the land of Dawn, with the homeboys claiming a 2-1 win here against RSGMY.
It's not a stressful game when you're playing clean. GG well played for homeboys in their 2-1 victory over RSGMY. Both these teams, they put on a show. They put on a show for us, but at the end of it all, it's about the points for the league.
There were some insane plays happening there, but I think we all have eyes about what is gonna happen on stage here. So without further ado, let's throw it over to Rose for the interview.
Kemenangan untuk pasukan homeboys, 2-1 dengan game yang sangat sengit. Before anything else, guys, bagi a round of applause kepada pasukan homeboys. Alright, itu dia. Okay, hi semua okay? Everyone's good?
Okay, alhamdulillah.
Okay, since kita nak interview Sepat dulu. Okay, sebab dalam interview hari tu, dengar cerita Sepat cakap, Sepat boleh kalah dengan tim mana-mana pun, janji bukan RSG. Kenapa? Apa dengan RSG yang you tak boleh kalah dengan dorang?
Apa tadi, Ros?
Okay, tengok aku, bukan Paps. Okay? So, dalam interview hari tu, Sepat pernah cakap, Sepat boleh kalah dengan tim mana-mana pun dekat MPL ni, janji bukan RSG. Kenapa bukan RSG? Ada apa dengan dorang? Okay.
Kita orang tak boleh kalah dengan RSG mungkin sebab kita orang punya pride daripada dulu lagi, daripada season 7. So kita orang kena pertahankan kita orang punya maruah, itu ya.
Oh, itu je actually. Alright. So dengan kemenangan ni, okay, you rasa potensi homeboys makin lama makin kuat ke? Dengan with the upcoming playoffs, you rasa you guys are ready ke?
Alhamdulillah untuk sekarang ni kita orang punya team makin membaik dan makin percaya each other. So kita orang harap kita orang boleh naikkan chemistry kita orang lagi, performance kita orang lagi untuk sampai dapat back to back lah.
Alright, okay. Can we please pass it to Zorn?
Aku?
Yes. Ada satu Zorn je dalam homeboys. Okay, Zorn. So, kita tahu you dengan Ripo ni dah macam ex-teammates kan? You guys pernah main dalam satu team sama dan dua-dua jadi champion waktu MPL musim ketiga dan sekarang you dah lawan. Tapi, apa kata instead of jadi spicy pula, Zorn jadi budak baik hari ni? Apa yang kata-kata sokongan yang you boleh bagi dekat Ripo as your friend who's going through a tough time this regular season?
Untuk Ripo, bagus lah sebab dia walaupun dia sekarang ni nampak macam tengah pressure tapi dia still nampak dia perform Yuzong tadi sampai kita orang sampai respect band. So Ripo still relevant lah walaupun nampak macam RSG tengah down So untuk Ripo, keep it up lah. Semoga RSG boleh champion season ni. Bukan. Oh, sorry. Semoga untuk Ripo terus berkembang nanti.
I selalu cakap kawan di luar gelanggang, tapi ini lebih sangat ni. Okay guys, so kepada fan-fan homeboys ataupun yang datang ke Stadium MBSJ, you guys rasa siapa yang shine dalam perlawanan ini? Siapa yang MVP perlawanan ini? Tak dengar? Apa kata kita tengok MVP kita? In 3, 2, 1. Jeng, 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 jeng. Aik. Nets! Okay, Nets. Pick your language. English, Tagalog, or Malay? Malay? Wow! Okay, so, Nets, I will ask you in English, you answer in Malay. Okay? So, Nets, just now in the first game, you guys dominated with a score of 14-1, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, second game, you guys lost. However, you got a maniac. What happened in that second game that led to that loss? Was it miscommunication, miscalculation? What really happened? In Malay dalam Melayu Dia yang berani cakap Melayu kan? Okay, let's go. Okay, Mike. Let's go.
Ako overconfident dan salah position.
Dan salah position. Okay, so you guys bincang tak backstage pasal salah position tu?
Bincang.
Bincang apa?
Discuss.
Bincang apa?
Masalah.
Wah, pandai dah budak ni. Wow, impressive. Okay, can we please pass it to Chibi? Chibi, tadi you salah satu macam target utama dorang masa game pertama tu, game kedua tu, dorang macam geram dengan Nolan you kan? So, sekarang you dah menang, apa kata-kata yang you nak bagi?
Kata-kata mungkin saya nak kata-kata semangat untuk RSG, semoga kami stronger lah, betul lah Syam.
Okay.
So, teruskan berjuang lah. No comment. Itu sahaja.
Wow. Okay. Udil, last. Udil, Ahad ni.
Saya cuma nak bilang terima kasih banyak untuk semua Flameboys yang datang dan untuk semua yang mendukung kami. Itu sajalah yang bisa Homeboys bilang untuk hari ini.
Oh, that's it. Okay, that's it then. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, you guys may now go celebrate your win. Wow. Dorang actually, I rasa dorang nampak letih dengan penat. I think that game actually took a lot of mental strength. Though, be careful, don't trip, please. Okay. Perlawanan tu nampak drain dorang dan it was a very intense match. So, sebelum match terakhir hari ini, apa kata let's throw it back to the casters one last time untuk match ni untuk dapat tahu apa yang Homeboys buat betul dalam game 3 ini. Casters, silakan.
It is certainly rare for Udil to not make some spicy closing statements before leaving the stage, but you know, I think I understand. That was honestly a closer match than any of us could have anticipated. Some respect is to be given here.
I think Game 2 was a very humbling experience for all of the boys from Homeboys, because even Zorn himself, he was crediting Repo for his Yujong. They were a force to be reckoned with, and I'm really surprised. They're actually showing respect to RSG MY. It's not over yet for them.
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, considering how all three of these games went, this is the type of RSG's. Well, in terms of the problems that they have, they're a lot more manageable compared to when we first saw them in the early weeks. So I think that at the very least, we wish that RSG should have been progressing from this point onwards. But now that they've caught up, can they kind of solidify themselves later on? But we got to give it to Nets. We got to give it over to the boy who was able to carry at the very end of the game. But this was, as you saw from the interviews, exhausting for all of the players. To be able to keep it this clean requires a certain level of attentiveness towards every aspect of the game.
I would say the focus, right? You have to be so zoned into the game, be one with the character itself, and you cannot afford to desync, right? Yep. And of course, now speaking about itemizations here, it feels like based on what we're seeing here, Leo's technically, even though he got all his major items here, he still wasn't able to dish out the necessary damage against Homeboys. And even though he's got those items, he doesn't have those sustainabilities to out-sustain Serpat, Chibi, or even Zorn in particular, because whenever he shows us fight, he pretty much gets destroyed.
I think the most unusual thing I saw in terms of like itemization as well was the fact that Udil went for Holy Crystal as a third item. Like that was the last item he completed and he went for it third. An interesting choice. Like why would you do that?
He just wanted to make sure that he has enough damage. I mean, we saw like a majority of the items coming up from RSG's side was very much like, oh yeah, Radiant Armor. Radiant Armor, we have to deal with like nets. There's so many things that we have to like actually protect ourselves from. And Udil's like, you know what? I'm going to double down on this because I'm going to get nearly double the amount of magic damage as I did before. If we look at the total damage dealt, Udil sitting at the top of the charts, right? So you could see that his greed out actually pays off big time. He needs to make sure that his burst damage sticks upon his opponents to be a legitimate threat. And I think even Izanami just started to feel it, right? Every single time Udil walks out of the bush with a +1, instantly, he doesn't want to take that damage. He quickly goes into that Brilliance form.
To be honest, I'm not a big fan of Udil's itemizations, but because of the fact that because there is a Ludox as an opponent here, he's taking advantage of the kit that Ludox provides to the table, where you have penetration kind of inverse with Spellweb, etc. And him getting an early Divine Glaze kind of allowed him to take advantage of the Brilliance. But again, very, very small thing, but still able to dish out very, very high volumes of damage if RSG tries to catch him.
It's a very valuable ability here, and there's reason why Izanami doesn't like this hero so much, having both damage and escape built in. But because Udil is able to steal that same escape away, Homeboys are able to manage and balance out their team fights a lot more effectively, since it's also clear that Zoran's very familiar with the timings that Storm is going to be going for and knows when he can take advantage of those windows.
Making sure that every time those windows are open, something needs to happen on the map. And the majority of the time, it was an invade, right? Vinogo really struggling in this matchup, especially since he doesn't have the help of a prioritized EXP lane. And I think Homeboy's plan to play around the EXP side of the map really came up big time, right? Very, very fruitful in this game.
Yeah, I agree. Being able to secure that EXP lane and knowing that you already have a winning gold lane as well means that your side lanes are already in a solid spot. And because they're able to rotate around securing kills with Zorn and Udil, it makes it a lot easier for them to actually maintain map control in the early to mid stages. And once they had that snowball, they played so much more respectfully of RSG in Game 3 because they knew there was always going to be a threat. And by playing it safe, they made sure that RSG couldn't take advantage of any mistakes.
Yeah, and speaking of mistakes here, I feel like every single time RGMY tries to set up a play here, it's either Zorn and Udil that kind of disrupts that initial focus, right? And a couple of times, obviously, you know, Storm was a little bit unlucky, right? The first Divine Judgment he caught, you know, turret didn't exactly auto-attack and kill Chibi. Second time, they got a job done, but after that, it was pretty much at the stage where Storm just tried to make an all-in play and it just didn't pay off.
Yeah, I mean, that's all they could really do, right? It's either you take one of the big damage dealers from Homeboys' side away, or you take away their biggest front line. And Udil very much did not show himself whenever not necessary, right? Zorn, same exact thing, except he understands that if the Divine Judgment is used on him, everybody else has an opportunity to kind of walk up and be dangerous, right? I think that Izanami especially really struggled in this matchup because he was supposed to be the guy that combos well with Stoem to make sure that he can use the Darkening to chunk down some of the thicker targets, but even so, there's just too much of a lead and they didn't have enough time to get to the max items.
It's not just a lead as well, right? Considering the fact that you've got Zorn, you've got Udil, you've got Chibi and Serpat. The four of these heroes technically can just annoy the heck out of Izanami if he gets out of position for Izanami. So for him to switch into Brilliance, not that difficult, but if he hard spams Darkening here, he is going to have a cooldown where there's going to be like a 1 to 2 seconds window where one of the members from Homeboys can just one-shot him. So it's very difficult to start things off with Darkening. And again, it has to be Storm setting up the most perfect positional play for Izanami to actually pull that off. So again, very, very difficult to pull off.
Yeah, this is one of the issues when you bring the Lunox into the meta here, because in exchange for the damage as well as the utility, she doesn't have the way to dish out damage from a safe distance. She has to be very nearby, which allows Homeboys to kind of control the flow of these team fights. And as you can see, they're just dominating all of the key players. Nets being the rich guy, we got Udil dealing the highest damage to heroes as the carry, and then Chibi being both the sandbag and the best wingman. playing a very solid Barats.
Making sure that he's able to use that lead to pressure his opponents out of control, and then eventually just to absorb damage in the later stages of the game so that his team can actually do the rest of the work for him, right? Again, a lot of his Daytona's welcomes. Sometimes he gets the pick off. Majority of the time, he's just trying to live.
Yeah, I really like how Chibi was able to start things off to set up for the Paquito punches. And it's kind of disgusting. I think there were a couple of moments where he actually set up for Zorn with the smash as well. And because of that, I think Vinogo just could not play this game at all.
Yeah, it was very rough because you can see that RSG MY are oftentimes going to be the first team forced back. Homeboys have more damage overall. They're able to position very well. There were definitely times where they were forced to trade, but oftentimes Homeboys, again, was able to juggle the members of RSG MY very well, jumping in and out of these team fights to make sure that they are absorbing as much damage as they can.
Well, look at the damage being dished out by Zorn. Now that I think about it, his Primal Wrath is just annoying. Every single time he popped it here, everyone from RGMY just backs the hell out. And even here, Zorn was just chunking down Izanami by himself. It's crazy.
It also helps that he has the added bit of range when it comes down to like the stun. He goes into range form, he's got a stun, he's got a slow, making the retreat for RSGMY really, really difficult, despite having like one incredible flank, a set played flank to try and get nets. But man, I don't know. These Filipino imports, they got some reaction times, man. He saw at the edge of his eye, he was like, hell no, I'm flickering as soon as I see him.
You know what's the most difficult thing that I've seen in this matchup for game number 3? Is that they had to go for an inverse gank. And what I mean by inverse gank is that usually your phones are positioned in a screen where this is you attacking from this angle, and this is them also from their phones from this angle. But because they were in this position, their phones are dragged in a way where they have to slip their screen, drag it down in order to play a counterplay, which is something that is not usual in a normal MLBB fight.
It's definitely not common.
It's not common.
Considering the number of games that these players have played up on that stage, I'd be surprised if it's not something that they're pretty used to by now as well. So, understandable, but now that they were able to secure that victory once again, Homeboy is going to be able to raise their points a little bit and move up to 4th place. Unfortunately, because they weren't able to get the clean sweep, they are still behind King Empire Esports. Unfortunately, with this loss, RSGMY still are remaining within that 8th place spot.
Yep, it's a little tough for RSGMY right now, but it doesn't mean that they're not completely done just yet, right? There's still plenty more games to finish things off and maybe change their potential standings, considering that MV and even Barracuda have also taken recent losses.
You know, again, all they gotta do is just make it to top 6, right? If they get 6th place, means they make it through to playoffs. And as of yet, we still do not have a clear indicator of who's making the playoffs and who's going to be relegated. It's still anyone's game in the bottom, and it's scary. Not gonna lie, it's really, really scary.
We are in the second half of the season now, but it still means that we've got another 2 weeks of games to go. So yeah, the standings are still not secure just yet. Anything can still happen, but some teams are definitely sitting a lot more comfortably than others. As you may have seen in that scoreboard, most of the teams have played 6 matches now, but Red Giants are still on top with only 4.
Yeah.
So
that's a big statement coming from us. Like for them, all they gotta do is just win their remaining matches, and they're still gonna be number 1. But if they start losing games now, technically, quote unquote, mathematically, they can still lose their upper bracket slot. So for them, they are in the most comfortable positions, and again, they have played against teams that are on the highest caliber so far. So I would say, technically, statistically wise, SRG should be, cruising their way into the 1st place. But again, anything can happen. New patch, new me, new everything.
We can't cast or curse it just yet here. Still a couple more weeks to go. But speaking of the Red Giants as well, because they've only played 4 matches, it's actually been a while since we've seen them play. But the wait is not going to be for much longer because they are going to be participating in the final match of the day.
Well, I'm extremely excited to see how that's going to be happening here, because Slough Red Giants here, a lot of teams, they were the top teams. You even made your own prediction in your stream that they were the top team to watch. And ever since their debut of last year, they were a very, very strong contender. We were like a bit surprised. Where did this team come from? How the hell did they play against international teams? In this case, I'm talking about tier 2 teams from other regions and still look so convincing. And now they're just here to say, we are the best teams ever in Malaysia. It's no longer the Todak, it's no longer RSG, it's no longer King Empire. It's SRG now.
Yeah, they may look like the best team, but how will they perform against best themselves? What are your thoughts on Bounty Esports' chances against the Red Giants?
I think unless Red Giants are in a position where they don't really understand what they want to get out from this particular patch, I think there might be a chance for Bounty, and I think that's the only way Bounty is going to have the edge, because the raw fundamentals we are seeing from SRG, even if they play a standard game with an old patch comp, they should do pretty okay.
So basically, it would take the Red Giants being pretty unprepared for the meta for Bounty Esports to even have a chance.
Yep.
You know, to be honest, so far the only assassins we've seen kind of prevalent into the current patch is pretty much Nolan so far, and even then, Skies was still playing the Nolan before this quote-unquote assassin meta was in place. So I'm curious to see whether or not are they going to be pulling even more strategies, because Skies very consistent on the Martis, very consistent on Frederick, very consistent on his Nolan, but I really want to see something else, like maybe a Ling, maybe a Hayabusa. I want to see more. Like, what else can SRG deliver?
Mia with the recent buffs and extending her range. Oh,
what about Layla?